I'd like to start the reorganization meeting for Schuylkill Township, please. We'll have a pledge of allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now turn the meeting over to our solicitor, who will chair the meeting. Get it started.
Thanks, Fred. The only function that I serve as temporary chairman of the meeting under Section 602 of the Second-Class Township Code is to accept nominations for the office of chairperson of the Board of Supervisors. Once that's done, of course, the control of the meeting is handed back. So at this point, I would accept nominations from the board for the office of chairperson for 2015.
I nominate our current chair, Mr. Fred Perry, as to be continue as chair of the board.
Second. I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that Mr. Perry continue in his office as chairperson of the Board of Supervisors for 2015. Is there any comment? All right, all those in favor signify their assent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's unanimous, and congratulations, Fred, and I now hand the meeting back to you.
Keep going strong.
Thank you for the honor, my colleagues. I appreciate very much. I'm very humbled that you've requested me to be the chairman again for another year. Hopefully I can stand up to what you expect of me, and as you know, I do respect you all very much in how we do it and how we run this township. It's very important that I run a good meeting and that the taxpayers are going to be happy with us too. So I would like a nomination for the vice chair.
I'll nominate Barbara.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All opposed?
Thank you very much. I'll back you up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'd like to hear a motion for treasurer.
I nominate Martha Majeski.
I second. Go ahead.
We all second.
We all second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is also that the treasurer does not serve with a compensation, so all you people do know that, okay?
I don't know about that.
Fred, I think for the purpose of our record, there should be a motion that the bond be set at $2 million paid by the township and the treasurer serve without compensation.
I
Okay.
so move.
Her second?
Second.
Any discussion? All, do I hear
All in favor?
opposed? A motion to approve it?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye, okay. I would like to take, and so we don't have to, I'm making a recommendation to the board that, instead of having a motion for each single item, for items 6 through 27,
Right.
on the first page, I'm going to group them together, and unless I hear any discussion that people want to make a change, then I will pull that one out. If not, I would like the, I make a motion that we accept every item of the people that are presently in that position from item 6 through item 27.
I'll second.
Just a couple of questions on that.
Sure.
Our current tax collection liaison, is that Mary?
Yes.
Is that you?
No, it's me.
It's you? Oh, okay. All right.
Excuse me, Fred, I hate to, it's okay to vote once,
Yes.
but for purposes of our record, you should identify each person. So I just run down the list, give every name, and then have one vote.
Okay. Secretary is Madeline. The township manager is Mary Bird. Zoning management,
Kim Yocum.
Who?
No, that's me.
Mary?
Oh.
That's Jim.
That's me.
Okay.
Police Committee is Kevin. Police Committee Vice Chair, do we have?
It was you.
is
That's
me?
you.
Yep.
Fire Committee is Kevin. Fire Committee Vice Chair is me. Administration was Fred Perry. The Planning Commission is
Me.
Martha,
Me.
Martha.
Martha. Historical Commission is Sandy Zmonaya.
Is
Barb.
myself.
Barb, I mean, these are liaisons, I'm sorry. Is Barb. Environmental Advisory Council
Jim.
is Martha.
Jim.
Jim.
Jim. Open Space,
Jim.
Jim.
Jim. Phoenixville Air School District is Fred. Regional Planning is Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Regional Planning alternate
Jim.
is
Jim.
Tax Collection is,
Me.
Martha.
okay. Emergency Management Coordinator,
Fred Honeyman.
Fred.
Who?
Fred Hardeman.
that's right.
Fred Honeyman.
Assistant
Right.
Management
Just to make
Coordinator
sure
is
there's
Kevin.
No confusion on the Freds.
Vacancy Board,
Sandy Hensy.
I don't know who that was.
Sandy Hensy.
Sandy Henson.
Sandy Henson.
Deer Management is Jim. Recycling Coordinator is Jim Shaughnessy.
Thank you very much for serving again.
And Chester County College Waste Committee Rep, that's Jim Shaughnessy too, isn't it? All right. We have their all named. We've had the motion. It's been seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Planning Commission, we
I
have,
can-
go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to reappoint Jim Redding and Morris Quake to the Planning Commission.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Zoning Hearing Board. Sean Dempsey.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Sean Dempsey, but it appears, Mary, or somebody, that Peter is no longer interested.
He can no longer serve.
Yeah, okay. All right. So it's just,
So we don't have a nominee for an alternate?
we don't have a second alternate, we have a first alternate.
Okay.
So my nominee is Sean Dempsey.
I'll
Yes.
second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Environmental Advisory Council.
I'll nominate Jerry Odell, Lori Sorosi, and Ayit Patel for continuing with the council second term or third term.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just want to note that Ayub is moving to full member
Mhm.
and Lori is becoming the alternate.
Correct.
That's correct, yes.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Historical Commission. Do I have recommendations for appointments?
For Pamela Applegate Fresh and Khalil Healy and David Kiefer, I so move.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? So moved. Open Space Committee.
I'll nominate Greg Blasik, Walter Mostek, and Robert Kahn for renewed terms on the Open Space Commission.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Valley Forge Sewer Authority. Norm Butts, I will
Make that motion.
make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. The next item is approval of administration appointments until such time as amended by the Board of Supervisors. Bill, can I,
You may do the same, you can identify everyone and then vote all at once. If there are any objections, they can be taken out.
Okay, Valley Forge Joint Board Liaison,
That was me.
Tax Hearing Officer, Martha?
Tax hearing officer.
Tax hearing officer is the Keystone Collection.
Yep,
Who?
Keystone Collection Group,
Prime Depository,
National Plan.
National Pen.
Township Roadmaster is Nick Cipriano, Township Engineer is John Sator,
It's
or
Gilmore.
Gilmore Associates,
Or John.
and Township Solicitor is Ventura,
Bill Brennan.
Bill Brennan.
His name's somewhere in there.
Gutierrez,
Zoning
Roseanne,
Administrative
Sullivan.
Officer is Ms. Gillette, correct?
Kimberly
Kim.
Yoakum.
Garcia,
Oh, okay.
the zoning administrative officer.
Code Enforcement Officer,
Okay.
Fire Marshal is,
That's all the chiefs and assistant chiefs for the fire.
okay.
So it'd be Jay Cole, Evan, Taylor, and Ralph Herman. Is there another chief, Jay? No? Okay.
Fire Police Captain,
That would be Tom Cole. Mr. Tom Cole.
okay, you've heard the names. You have any more discussion on these gentlemen?
We need a
Women?
motion and a second
Do I have a
first.
motion?
I make the motion?
I'll second it.
I do have one very brief discussion.
Sure.
I have a lot of hesitation. I think Bill Brennan serves us in a superb and excellent way, and the same with Gilmore and Associates. I do not feel the same way about Yerkes. There have been many times in many instances where they have not performed to the really marvelous level that you, John, and you, Bill, performed. So I wanted to say that in public. And Mary, is there a way we can appoint them for 6 months as opposed to a year?
They serve at your pleasure, you can change any time. This is not a one-year contract, this is a,
Okay. But I wanted to give you both a public compliment for superb service to the community, really and truly. And Yerkes just doesn't measure up in the same way.
I think my colleagues are, I think all of us are concerned about this company and how they are being effective to the township, and it's being taken under consideration now. More will have to be discussed at executive session. However, I'm sure that all of my colleagues are aware of some of the, I will have to say, major problems that we're experiencing at the present time. So we've had a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion?
What was the motion?
Make the motion of all the people that we named of the Valley Forge Sewer Authority, the Tax Hearing Officer, Prime Depository, Township Roadmaster, Township Engineer, Township Solicitor, Zoning Administration Officer, Court Enforcement Officer, Fire Marshal, Deputy Fire Marshal, and Fire Police Captain. We're putting them in their positions. We named them all.
Barbara said something about Yerkes. What about Yerkes?
Her question was with regards to, is it a year long? No, they serve at the pleasure of the board. So we're looking into,
So if we appoint them tonight,
yeah,
we
we
can
can change them.
change them during the course of the year.
Which will be a separate motion, which will be brought up at one of our next meetings. It has to be discussed, yeah. Okay. All right. We've had the motion, we've had the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Make a motion to set the official meeting date for the Board of Supervisors as the first Wednesday of each month. If such date falls on a holiday, the board will meet on the day following unless advertised otherwise. And the dates have been notated in your your packet. Do I hear a motion, we accept those?
So moved.
Second.
Do I hear any discussion on them?
No.
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to advertise dates of 2015 Board of Supervisors meetings as well as Environmental Advisory Council, Historical Commission, Open Space Commission, Planning Commission, Phoenixville Regional Planning Committee, and Zoning Hearing Boards.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to set mileage rate for 2015 at 57.5 per mile in accordance with the IRS 2015 business mileage rate, 57.5 cents a mile.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. You can second this time.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to approve the list of official holidays for Schuylkill Township employees for 2015. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Motion to approve resolution number 2015-01, designing the Valley Forge Volunteer Fire Company to provide fire protection in their usual outstanding manner to Schuylkill Township. Do I hear a
Make
motion?
that motion.
I'll second. The only discussion is everybody should go to the pancake breakfast.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. The motion to approve the list of activities, which we should have brought, you should bring up now, of the Valley Forge Volunteer Fire Company for 2015.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Do I hear that motion?
So move.
Okay,
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion to approve resolution number 2015-02, the township fee schedule, until such time as amended by the Board of Supervisors. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Motion to approve resolution 2015-03, deposition of Township records. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Question on that.
Yep.
Okay, sure, Jim.
On the list of the various categories of records, we have a list, category called general correspondence. Just to clarify, that's something, that's a kind of correspondence, I hope, that's not part of a specific development and not part of a
No, it's not.
specific property?
No.
Okay.
None whatsoever.
Okay.
It's not subdivision, not land development, not
Okay.
parcel related. It's literally just general correspondence.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to approve resolution number 2015-04, affirmation of code of conduct for supervisors of Schuylkill Township. Now, we passed this back in 2006.
No, it was 11.
11, yeah. And I hope we would all read it and sign it again to ensure that we're all in conformance with the code of ethics for each of us as how we handle ourselves in public and how we handle our duties as for the taxpayers that we're elected by. I make that
Second.
motion. Do I hear a
Second.
second? Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And the last but not least, the motion to adjourn the reorganization meeting.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Take a 5-minute break, and then we'll start our regular board meeting.
Yeah, it's in here.
I'm going to open the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors for the month of January. I'm not going to have another call for the Pledge of Allegiance. I want... Can you hear me? I thought I had a loud enough voice.
It's on.
I'd like to just make an announcement. It's going to be videotaped by the township, the board meeting. Is anyone else recording the meeting so that all attendees of the meeting are aware? Has everyone signed in that's going to speak tonight? If they haven't, would they please sign in? Got it over there, Pete. Right there. Pete, I understand they've been meeting with you, though,
But not, they've not been sincere.
okay, I'll talk to you later about that.
Well, we're gonna hopefully have it.
Well, this was wonderful. Thank you.
It was cold, we cut it up and used it as firewood. It'll get warm in here. It'll get warm. No, I'm only teasing.
I know.
Oh, no, what? It disappeared.
Did you read that?
Disappeared.
Huh?
I just wanna see all of you,
Just
Jen.
for the board.
Just wanna see all of you.
Thought you might be interested in that. Because if necessary, I will bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order.
Thank you. Well, I already planned what I was gonna say.
Don't you love it?
Interesting.
I would accept a motion for the consent agenda, the Board of Supervisors minutes of December 3rd, 2014, and December 31st, 2014.
Make that motion?
And the acceptance of reports, all departmental, committee, commissions, council reports is posted and received to this date by the Board of Supervisors. Do I hear a motion?
Make that motion?
I'll second.
I have one comment, Bob, in terms of your summary of the minutes from the Open Space Commission. I think the discussion that we had was very relevant with regard to the way in which appraisals are conducted, that the appraisal should be comprehensive and include the geography and the lay of the land, however you want to term it. But I just wanted to make that amendment to your minutes, because we had a very thorough discussion about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay?
So I've had the motion, I've had the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. A motion to, okay. 2-minute reports. Anybody have any, you liaisons, do you have anything to report from your commission meetings that you've been to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll move on to our illustrious treasurer and the payment of bills and the treasurer's report. Martha?
I did review the bills this afternoon. Everything is in order and is ready to be paid. Regarding the treasurer's report, as of December 31st, 2014, we have a balance of just over $2 million. If you had a chance to look at the statement of expenditures and the statement of our revenues, as of December 31st, we actually received 103% of what we budgeted for or what we estimated for our revenues, which is fantastic.
That's why we nominated you and approved you to the post again.
And if you look at our statement of expenditures, even though we had a really rough winter earlier in the year, we did only spend 92% of our budget, just over 92% of our budget. So we had a fantastic year as far as our budget is concerned. And do any of you have any questions? Okay.
I hear a motion to accept the treasurer's report and the payment of bills.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. I would just like to say something to everybody that's here tonight. If you're going to make a comment, wait to be recognized by the chair, please. Come to the podium and speak clearly and identify yourself, okay? Try to limit your speaking engagement 3 to 5 minutes. It's a pleasure to announce that Schuylkill Township has been awarded a $10,000 grant through PICO Green Region Grant Program Special Funding Round in celebration of PICO's Green Region's 10th anniversary. 5 awards of $10,000 each were made to municipalities and nonprofit organizations whose profits will benefit children throughout the region. Our township's grant was awarded for the Advisory Council's plan for an environmental education area and butterfly garden for the Schuylkill Township. Thank you from the board to all you EAC members and what you've done, your hard work and your dedication and what you've done for us. We thank you very much. The administration's town and roads department will be closed on Monday, January 19th, 2014 for the Martin Luther King holiday. Historical Commission meeting will be on Monday, January 26, 2014 at 6:30 p.m. Please check on the township website for the meeting dates of all our boards, our councils, and our commissions. And please, to stay in touch with what's going on in the community, please join our mailing list on the township website. It'd be most appreciated.
And I'm in the process of discussion with the country club with regard to our 4 dates for this
Good.
year. So I'll have some final dates, and we'll do the Founder's Day, say the first Saturday in November, correct?
Fred, and regarding our commissions, we do have some openings in some of our commissions and
Good.
some of our committees. So if anyone's interested in volunteering and helping out the township, I think are they listed on our website or not yet? Not yet?
They won't be until they have their first meeting
Oh,
of the
okay.
year and let us know what they're looking for.
Okay. All right, thanks.
I hope people have read the PSAB webinars that we're having. They'll start on January the 7th, duties and responsibilities of a council, and then they move on all the way through June, which there'll be more on that. Also, the what's that? Any more announcements? Hearing none. We have anything in legal matters, Bill?
Just that the DePolo intervention papers are being prepared to be filed next week. That's all I have. Thank you.
I have something for old business. We brought up at our last meeting, we're talking about noise ordinance. Jim, have you had a chance to look that over or find out anything about that or such?
No, I haven't, Fred.
Okay.
There are some municipalities that do have such a thing. I will look into it
Okay.
by the next meeting.
Okay. But I think that's important that we take a look at it and see where we're from. All right, get into new business. The first item of new business has been canceled. Motion to approve the PICO, excuse me, PICO's right-of-way agreement
He's
to
not coming
en-
tonight.
energize the communication tower on township property here. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say that we're if you haven't noticed, just around the corner here, there's a very large white pole, off-white, so it sort of blends in with the sky. We're having a fourth cell tower installed in order to take care of a coverage gap, which is right in this area. It includes the township building, includes the Schuylkill School, and
Y.
and also the Y, and also down Creek Road and Buckwalder Road. So and then north a bit towards Route 23. So they're constructing it. They've got the tower up. They're doing a pretty good, fairly neat job of doing it, not chewing up the adjacent grass.
Jim, would
Do we have an
you,
idea- Mary, do we have an idea as to when they're gonna?
Jim, you want to explain to the people that are in our audience the reason we're putting the tower up?
Well, yeah.
Because of the dead zone?
Yeah, we had a concern relative to the Sandy Hook Elementary School, very sad event, that we might have, God forbid, something similar to that occur here. No knowledge of it, but we thought that it would be prudent to make sure that we had complete cell phone coverage, particularly including the Schuylkill School. And so that sort of initiated this whole thing. It's sort of a win-win for the township because we'll be getting some revenue as a result of this from the carriers, so indirectly from the carriers. So anyway, stay tuned. It's still a work in progress. They're still hooking up the wires, and this particular motion is just that, to connect electricity, connect into the electrical grid on White Horse Road.
Any more discussion? Thank you, Jim. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. We'll move on to resolutions and ordinances. Motion to approve an advertising ordinance 2015-01 authorizing the participation of Schuylkill Township in the PSAT's Unemployment Compensation Group Trust pursuant to the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Corporation Law. Mary, do you have something to say about that?
No, other than if we do have an unemployment claim, PSATs takes care of it for us. So they handle all the paperwork and everything else. And because we're part of them, we also get dividends on this as well. So it's a good thing to get into. It takes the burden off of each individual municipality when it comes to that.
Make
That is a good
motion.
idea.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Second.
go ahead. You second.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. The next item of business is on subdivision land development. Discussion regarding Nolan Companies, Valley Forge Meadows Company Incorporated waiver request from Section 504A to provide sidewalks along Paulings Road. Motion to approve the waiver.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been seconded, I suppose. If I could comment on this.
Sure.
Just to sum up where we are, Mr. Nolan has a preliminary plan filed with the township for an apartment building complex off of Paulings Road. He asked for 11 waivers. As of the last meeting of the board, we granted him 10 of the 11 waivers. This basically is a discussion about whether we should grant him a waiver relative to building a sidewalk along Paulings, connecting the entrance basically to Revolutionary Boulevard. I would like to make a motion basically here to deny the waiver, okay, but allow Mr. Nolan to build a 5-foot wide paved walking path approximately parallel to Paulings Road from the property entrance as designed to Revolutionary Boulevard.
Jim.
We already made a
Hey,
motion.
hang on, please.
Go ahead.
That's
Go
just
ahead.
what I was going to say. A motion has already been made,
There was another motion made.
and if
Second.
we have to vote on this, and then
All
if
right.
you want to make another motion, we can. But let's go ahead and vote on the one that's already been made and been seconded. Okay. Do I hear any more discussion on this motion? The discussion regarding Company Valley Forge Meadows waiver request the motion was made by Mr. Hanforth and seconded by you, wasn't it?
You, Fred.
You did.
By me. Okay. Is there any more discussion?
Yes, I do. I have
Okay, fine.
something that I wanted to clarify.
Go ahead.
I want to make sure that Mr. Nolan provides a walking path within his property for the residents. And so I am ambivalent about denying or approving the waiver for the sidewalk. I respect the residents of the Meadows wanting their privacy, as has been indicated. On the other hand, I feel that based on other developers in the township, getting an easement right by here in terms of the Valley Park development, people don't know that there is an easement there, and then all of a sudden, if you want to put a trail on the perimeter of a property, everyone is very upset. I personally have lived for 42 years on Valley Forge Mountain, adjacent to Horseshoe Trail, and it's a pleasure. And I think having a trail within your development, a loop trail where it is appropriate to do so, would be something of an asset for those who would rent units or later purchase a condo, whatever you decide. So I'm not sure how to vote with regard to either a sidewalk or a trail. I think that needs to be clarified. I want him to do something, forgive the pun, concrete, or not, or wood chips.
Well, we did, Mr. Nolan, John Sartor, Jerry Odell, and myself several months ago, did a walkthrough from the approximate proposed entrance of the development west towards Revolutionary Boulevard, walking through the wooded area, trying to stick within PennDOT's right-of-way, which, as a by the way, is 40 feet from the center line going into the property. Okay, that's quite a right-of-way. It's an 80-foot right-of-way. I'm taking both sides of the road. And it turns out that a pathway is possible, and it can be paved. And the best thing about it is you don't have to cut down any mature trees to do it. Whereas if there were a sidewalk built along Paulings Road, I take Mr. Nolan's point that a couple of dozen mature trees, some plus or minus 2 feet in diameter, at breast height, would have to be cut down. And not to mention the embankment, backfilling, and all that kind of construction. So I'm sympathetic to that issue. I think effectively the same walking connection could be made with a paved path that approximately parallels a sidewalk that would be obviously right along Paulings Road. And frankly, it's by the way, I see this as a major benefit, believe it or not, for the Meadows at Valley Forge folks. Why? Because we're working sort of two ends against the middle, if you will, to try to get a connection between Schuylkill Township on this side of Valley Forge Park, across the Paulings Road Bridge to the paved area, not paved area, but the parking area that features a trail, that is a trailhead for the Parks Trail that goes along the Schuylkill River, not to be confused with the Schuylkill River Trail. This would provide, frankly, as I see it, the only viable way and safe viable way of getting from one of your entrances to Ferry Lane, okay, which is where the entrance to this development will be. And then the next thing that we have to consider, assuming that's done, is a pathway on that side of Ferry Lane side, on Paulings, underneath the railroad bridge, to the Paulings Road Bridge over the Schuylkill. Assuming those two things are done, then the folks at the Meadows have ready access to the Schuylkill Trail that the park has developed along the north side of the Schuylkill River, which, by the way, ultimately links up to, in the Betswood area, the Schuylkill River Trail, which you then, of course, if you're an avid biker, can head all the way to Philadelphia. So here's a segment that if we don't get it done now, I'm not hopeful that it will ever get done. Okay, so recognizing Mr. Nolan's difficulty in terms of cost and maybe in terms of the look of his development, whatever other reasons he thinks it's an issue, I think that it's reasonable to suggest, and we can't require this be done, but suggest that he put a paved path through the woods there, as close to the road as possible. We're not talking about going way into the middle of the property. We just want to get it so there's a walking connection from Revolutionary Boulevard to the entrance of the development, or the other way. So that's my comment.
Bill,
Did you let people know that we received a grant for this too?
Well, we've actually.
Well, I think all the people here should know that
Yeah,
too.
well, okay, there are actually 2 grants that have been received, or two categories of grants, if you will, to do feasibility studies. One is the one that Barbara applied for and got, which is a pathway from Valley Forge Park to essentially the development that's on the east side of Ferry Lane. And then there has to be a determination by the engineers and the landowners where it goes from there.
an 18-month study.
Yeah, but it could conceivably connect up to the intersection of Ferry and Paulings. The second grant we've got for feasibility study is a feasibility study for a sidewalk system for all of Schuylkill Township, going from essentially Country Club Road all the way west to Star Street, with some feeder connections, you know.
But we aren't here to discuss that portion of it.
Yeah.
We're here to
Well,
discuss just the Nolan property.
You asked me to describe it, and I just did. One of those segments is an area between Revolutionary Boulevard and the entrance to Mr. Nolan's development. But it doesn't have to be a sidewalk. It can be a.
Do you realize how big a housing development you're talking about that connects up to this?
Say again?
Between how big a housing development that it's being connected up to, the houses and such, compared to?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, your proposed complex is 72 units. There are how many homes in Meadows at Valley Forge?
200.
280 or
269.
270 or whatever?
200 and some, 200 plus.
75.
275, okay, I was close.
That's quite a,
Bill, my question to you to simplify things is, I'm not sure how to vote. I would like to make sure if I vote for this waiver for the sidewalk, that doesn't preclude strongly suggesting on final approval
Well,
that
first-
Mr. Nolan put in a trail within his property.
May I make a few comments?
first of all, we have a motion on the floor.
Yes,
We
I
have to
know.
take care of that.
Well, I can't
First of
vote
all.
until he
Second of
answers.
all, we can't keep putting this off month after month after month. We have to make some
agree.
decisions, folks. So you have to get down and dirty and make a decision of what you want and what you don't want.
Fred, may I make a comment, please?
Yes, please.
Barbara's suggestion for a trail on site is a little bit at this point, because the next item on the agenda is consideration of whether to grant preliminary approval of an existing plan. The plan is done. It's last revised as of September 11th, 2014. And, you know, a suggestion now to, in other words, if it's not on the plan, it's not something the developer has to do. Now,
I see.
if you wish to talk to Mr. Nolan here about whether he's willing to put a trail on site, that means something, but it doesn't, we don't know what, it's hard to imagine where the trail would be, what the coverage issues would be. I mean, it's a lot of, you know, negotiating here at a public meeting, so, you know.
We don't want to do that. My question is, if one approves a preliminary plan, I have a question regarding the style of the architecture that was shown to me. And
That's-
second, Jim, let me just finish my
That's the
sentence.
next item on the agenda.
I know.
We're just
I'm
specifically
trying to-
talking about the sidewalk, and there's a motion on the table here to vote on it.
The other point is,
Oh, sorry.
the other point is that, is one minor correction. The township did approve 10 of the 11 waivers, but
That's correct.
with regard to number 9, It was a partial grant with conditions concerning where.
4, 9, and 11, that's correct.
So we're dealing only with request number 4.
Which is the sidewalk.
Sidewalk. The option is to grant the waiver, which means no sidewalk, to deny the waiver, which means the sidewalk must be installed, or to grant the waiver with certain conditions. So those are really your options. In fact, that's what I'd outlined in the draft resolution that I prepared, which modified the prior draft, which says basically what I just said. The other waiver requests are taken care of. The only outstanding one concerns this sidewalk. So my point is, if you're expecting a trail on site later, if it's not on the plan, you don't get it. The preliminary plan is effectively the final plan. There's no room after the preliminary for major changes or for requesting other stuff. So.
Could the conditions granting the waiver so that he's exempt from putting in a sidewalk, could those conditions be specific to his putting in a trail?
Yes, but there should be some meeting and negotiation as to how long the trail would be. He's gonna wanna know what the cost is. He's gonna wanna know who's gonna maintain it. So it's opening the door to more negotiation, which we're happy to do. Mr. Nolan loves to negotiate with us, he's here. You know.
Just a minute. You're next.
I'm Bob Mount. I just want to clarify something here. Bill pointed out, I think 2 or 3 meetings ago, that we're dealing with 2 separate transactions. Okay? One is the development plan as it's shown here. The other is a possible conservation easement transaction. Any trail on the 19 acres would be a component of that conservation easement.
Not necessarily, though.
Yeah,
Not
Yeah.
necessarily.
yeah.
Okay.
It can override. It can override.
So,
Well, let's be clear, Bob, this, the next item for the vote on the approval of the plan is separate from the entire issue of the conservation easement.
exactly,
Okay.
that's the point you made. I just want to bring that up because I think it clarifies Barbara's concern. Her voting for or against the sidewalk is not relevant to the possibility of a future trail on conservation easement. That's a separate issue.
Mr. Nolan?
Yeah, just to set the record straight, I'm totally confused. I thought
So,
I thought that it was made clear to the board that I didn't want any trails behind the apartment complex for privacy purposes.
It was made.
And I thought it was made by the people that lived at the Meadows and Valley Forge, that they didn't want any trails behind their property for the same reason, privacy. It was my understanding that Mr. Morrison wanted a connection from the 5 miles of concrete sidewalks that we put in that development, which is a pretty nice trail, 5 miles, to connect that to the front entrance of the proposed apartment development. We then spent a day walking that with Mr. Sartor, Mr. Morrison, and I think Bob was there. We walked it, Mr. Sartor was gonna GPS it. We have put that on a sketch plan showing that connection. I thought that's where we were.
that's what I thought
All of a sudden,
too.
we're back to put
Well,
trails
then,
over. don't
I
know
think
where
it's
we are.
better to do the sidewalk then.
I don't think
Nope.
anybody wants trails all over the place, do
They
they?
don't want to connect it now.
I wasn't
Meadows
saying
Road.
trails all over the place. I was talking within your complex.
Yeah, well, I don't want them, and they don't want them, so, I mean, I don't know. I thought what the township wanted was this trail connection from the front of the entrance to Revolutionary Boulevard. We agreed to do that, we put it on our plan to talk about it.
And you're saying that the walk you did with Mr. Morrison is on the plan?
Yeah,
It is.
It's not a plan that's been submitted, we, for discussion purposes tonight, we want to log it.
I haven't seen it, that's why, okay. You're
well,
welcome.
we were still waiting for a GPS from Mr. Sartor. So we put it approximately where we think everybody walked.
But does that walking path go into the easement area? I mean, the projected easement area?
Yeah, it has to, it has to. There's no other way to do it.
We don't know where that's gonna end up.
Do you want to say something? Do you want to say something?
It starts out in the PennDOT
Right.
setback, and then they
Kevin.
walked into the woods a little bit,
I
and
think
then
you
came
want
back
to say
out
something.
again into the PennDOT right of way. I mean, you know, at some point in time, I think I've been here like 20 years, building, at some time, maybe you're gonna trust me, I don't know. I've done nothing
So if
against
we
this.
vote to deny the waiver, that means he will put in a sidewalk. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
If you what?
If we vote to deny the waiver, that one outstanding waiver, that means that Mr. Nolan will put in the sidewalk, as
Yeah,
we
but-
just
but
discussed.
to be honest with you, you're gonna go against the whole neighborhood, where the majority of the neighborhood said they don't want any contact with this apartment complex. Mr. Nolan doesn't wanna have it anywhere connected to the Meadows of Valley Forge. He's gonna keep it two separate complexes. Barb, I don't care if you put a trail internally within inside of that, the Meadows doesn't want it connected.
Okay, and you realize once again, Kevin, that if you don't get this put in,
That's fine.
you, being the Meadows at Valley Forge, will not have a walking connection to the site of the
That's perfect.
trailhead for the Valley Forge Park to get to Bettswood and beyond. You will not have a connection.
That's perfect.
I think the bigger issue with that is once you figure out how you're gonna get under the Pollard's
Yep.
Bridge. You know,
There's a
That's-
sidewalk.
There
There's
is a
No, there's
sidewalk
not.
there
There's a
already.
Have you ever been down there?
Yes,
Under the
Very
Pollard's
There
Bridge.
is a sidewalk with
there
a
is a
railing.
sidewalk there.
Yes.
The point is, the sidewalk is a public thoroughfare. And I look at this as taking the big picture. You don't want a trail, a sidewalk in the public right-of-way, or however one wants to term it, is what Mr. Nolan has agreed to. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out where you guys are at on this.
Is anybody else
Sit down
from,
for a second.
So that was in lieu of doing sidewalk and curb on Paulings Road
Yeah,
and destroying all the trees.
yeah.
We all agreed that that was a stupid way to go, let's do it the smart way, and we all walked it, flagged it, and we're waiting on Mr. Sartor to give us the GPS of exactly where that trail is.
So if we gave you a waiver on the sidewalk, okay, you're committing here, I assume, to doing this pathway as you've sketched on your.
No, it's just
No,
the
they don't want
opposite,
it
Jim.
connected.
What?
It's just the opposite.
There's no
We
path.
deny the waiver because he has agreed to put in a sidewalk.
No, he's not. He doesn't want to do that. You're getting them all mixed up, Barbara. He wants to, he does not want the sidewalk. He doesn't want to cut the trees down. He doesn't want to go through all that big construction, okay? He doesn't want it. So if we give him a waiver, he doesn't have to build it.
Perfect.
But if we give him the waiver, I'd like some commitment from Mr. Nolan to follow through with his, apparently he has a sketch plan in the
No.
works here with the pathway shown.
Just
It's
give
not
him a waiver.
exact,
Just give him a waiver.
needs refinement, okay?
Just give him a waiver.
Let Bill give the
Just a
guidance,
moment.
please.
So what you're suggesting, I think, Jim, is that the waiver of the sidewalk be granted
Mhm.
with the condition
No.
that in exchange for the waiver, Mr. Nolan or his company will install a walking path,
No.
you know, consistent with, we have to get some language on this, consistent with this walk that everyone went on from the entrance driveway to Revolutionary Road. Now, that can be established as a condition in exchange for the granting of the waiver, which will allow Mr. Nolan to avoid building the sidewalk. So,
Yeah.
as I see
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
there are three options. Grant the waiver, which means, no sidewalk, nothing. Deny the waiver, which means he builds a sidewalk. Or grant the waiver with a condition, which would be he installs the path.
Right.
Those are your choices, as I understand it.
all right, there has been a motion, folks, and if my colleagues should know, if we take a vote on it, if no one answers, the motion dies, okay? And then we make another motion. So you have to understand where we go and how we're doing this, okay? So the motion's been made, it has been seconded. And is there any more discussion on it? The motion was that we had a discussion on it for the waiver request from section 504A to provide sidewalks along Paulings Road. Motion to approve the waiver. You
I
made the motion,
You
and I seconded. I understand that. All right, no more discussion. I call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Okay,
Okay. Now,
Motion waived.
The next.
Now, I'd like to make another motion, based on what Bill's guidance. I'd like to make a motion to grant the waiver with the condition that Mr. Nolan put in the walking path that he explored with my colleague, with our engineer of the property.
A few more details, because this is get lost in the shuffle. Walking path, it's not,
Paved 5 foot wide.
is it paved or not paved?
Paved 5 foot wide.
Paved, just a moment. 5 foot wide, just a moment. From,
A 5 foot wide path is wider than the sidewalk.
well, let's
Please
finish.
don't
Hold on.
interrupt, okay?
5 foot wide path paved from the entrance
Unbelievable.
to the development. Is that, where does it go? To Revolutionary Road?
Boulevard.
Revolutionary Boulevard. Now, how do I explain where this path goes in terms of meanders?
Well,
or what?
what I said was based on the walk.
It was marked and, just from visual look, you see a highlighted line here, shows, the approximate path, runs along the backside of the right of way instead of the sidewalk until you get to
It's
the,
15%
open
value of
space.
for the
Lot
bonds.
two, what we'll call it, lot one, the open space area which meanders back. And then, no, it does pop out right where Paulings Road widens to Revolutionary Boulevard. It doesn't go all the way because you have a pipe and a stream and crossings there. So as depicted, it pops out before you get to Revolutionary.
Can we have this as an exhibit?
Yeah, this is titled Proposed Trail Location Plan.
All right.
It's probably the date of the plans.
So you have a stream and a pipe,
Date
you can't even
1909,
connect it.
last revised,
So why even put it in?
12/6/14.
All right, so the motion then, if it's what you want, is to grant the waiver with the condition that the walking path as described on this exhibit, which we will,
It's called Proposed Trail Location Plan.
all right, and the path will be paved 5 foot wide in the location described in orange on this plan. That's the,
That was my motion. And did we second?
Is there a reason why you want it paved? Paved means bicycles flying up to Ferry. It also means the ATVs that are running around out there now are
Yeah.
gonna fly on that
That's
property.
right.
We have to police it.
And most of the trails, a lot of the trails on the Schuylkill are stoned. They're not all paved. I mean, it
You
seems
can
like-
put signage up that would preclude that.
Yeah, right.
But as a person who's had 2 hips done, it would be much easier to have it paved.
Do I get a-
Anybody that has a paved trail is gonna get on that paved trail and go over.
Mr.
Just a
Nolan has
minute,
the floor.
please. Let Mr. Nolan finish.
I can't do that now, think about that, I can't research that right now.
Well,
The scope
I mean,
of
if
it,
the
in terms
townships,
of,
the
that's it.
townships making me do this, they're making me pave it. I'm very concerned about the safety. I don't mind a walking path, a 4-foot sidewalk, people sidewalk on. Now you're talking 5 feet, you're talking paved, and I'm concerned about ATVs, bikes, and the liability that's involved with all that.
That's right.
I'm not Montgomery County, I'm not Schuylkill Township. I'm a developer, and boy, we love to get sued. Everybody wants to take a shot. So I'd like to get some sort of an indemnification that if I build this according to your specs and your location, that you're going to exonerate me or at least stand up in front of me.
Well, I can't decide that now, that's a 3-page agreement, I can't, terms, conditions, insurance,
Hang on.
circumstance, I can't do that here to indemnify. We can certainly talk about it, we'll do it later, but then, I don't know, I'm not promising anything, we may find that it's something we can't do. So the answer would be to push this off for a month and do the indemnity. Or deal with it.
Well, that's true too.
You're next.
Question then,
Hang on, just a minute.
would this be considered a public walkway by the township that you're requesting this?
Public trail.
Would this be a public trail?
It would be a public trail.
Yes, it would.
So
He wouldn't be liable.
how would he be liable?
It's in the,
It's on his property.
Is this township property?
No.
No, it's.
If it's the easement, it could be.
This is,
Well, I mean, he would own it, so eventually when he is done building it and turns it over to the homeowners association or whatever owns that land, and now they are gonna assume liability for what you're saying, that you would like to connect the rest of the township through the valley, the trail, so you're saying that you would like to have hundreds of people riding through this on bikes and strollers?
No, we're not.
Well, you just said you wanted to connect it.
Because the rules are what they are. I'm sorry, and I have great respect for your dedication to the homeowners association where you are. But in order to have a multi-use trail in the way in which you're describing it, don't fall over, but you need an easement that's 10 feet wide and a minimum 6 foot wide. That's what a public multi-use trail is. You can
That's why
have
nobody
something
puts it in.
paved you can have something paved as a sidewalk so that people can walk. 5 feet, you have to have, a wheelchair and a stroller to be able to pass one another.
Okay.
Valley Forge
Did I
isn't-
just, is this a
Valley
public
Forge isn't
trail
that
or is
big.
not a public trail?
Pardon me?
Would this be a public trail on private land or a private trail for the development?
Would be a private trail.
Then why are you quoting to me public?
I'm trying to
ADA
differentiate
that's
the
not what my
hyperbole
question was,
from
but my
fact,
question
that's all.
was- My question was, the two of you wanting to place this trail by the development
Yes.
on this land, is this a public?
That's,
In
I got
effect-
one yes and one no.
In effect, it would be a public trail.
Okay, so
I-
now,
I
how does
think-
that,
Bill, that
It's on private property, it's a private.
It's a private.
it's a
trail.
private trail, Jim, it's
Well,
not public.
But Bill, we did an improved trail for the Thompson properties, the Pickering Valley Golf Club,
What?
which is a couple of miles long, okay, through private property.
Valley
That was
Forge
And that's,
Trail
that is a
isn't that
publicly
big.
accessible trail.
That's different.
Well,
Well, I mean, it's a trail that's on private property that's publicly accessible, so we've done that.
so, okay, so we're not clear here. So if the development, now, I'm not arguing the trails are not a value to potentially the development itself.
Correct.
And the apartment owners.
And it would be private as defined by the fact of his doing it, and defined by the fact that it is not being used for the multi-purpose trail as defined by the 1992 Federal Act.
Then there was no reason then it has to be paved in macadam and
Paved
upkeep. It doesn't
for-
have to be do that. I mean, because if it's now remember, the homeowners association.
As a
One
senior
second, one second.
Wait, listen.
1 second, please, thank you. You told me I was cutting you off 4 times. As the homeowners association that you're saying would be privately running that trail system.
Correct.
They would always have the option later on to convert that to macadam if they'd like. And if they have the financial. Why
But
are
the
you shaking
opposite
your-
is true. And knowing there would be much easier to put in the macadam in the beginning, knowing what it takes to maintain the Fernley Trail, knowing what it takes to maintain the Horseshoe Trail. It's easier and a more positive resource for Mr. Nolan to put in this walking path in his development, period. And as somebody,
That's a judgment.
Excuse me.
I'm willing to.
Excuse me, John, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Your red line doesn't go all the way to Revolutionary Boulevard, why not?
No, because you have the pipe in the stream and a waterway crossing there, so we come out to right where Paulings Road widened.
So you're not going all the way to Revolutionary
No,
Boulevard?
it would be pretty significant kerning, especially if you're gonna pave that and you're gonna cross the wetlands and you're gonna cross the
But-
floodplain.
So you can't.
So the
But
motion,
John-
but the
John,
motion
you-
that,
you-
excuse me, Jim, Bill, the motion that we made said that this was supposed to go from Revolutionary Boulevard to the entrance at Ferry Lane, correct?
Well, I'm not sure which motion we're talking about. It seems to me, though, that we've sort of landed at a point that we're gonna use this plan as the guide as to what the motion, if you decide to pass it. My point is to have some clarity about just what's being decided.
Yeah, I agree, because
So I
this
think-
isn't what was originally discussed.
Well, then that's different from, if that's what the motion is, this is different. Then that motion should be withdrawn or voted down, and you decide exactly what you're suggesting.
let's
Yeah,
repeat
John-
the motion.
I think John ought to make a comment here. John, can you comment on the possibility of connecting from the end of that orange dot to Revolutionary Boulevard?
Well, anything is possible.
Yeah.
And Mr. Deemer's correct in that there is a water course here, the beginning of a water course, so in order to connect this orange line to Revolutionary Boulevard would involve crossing a waterway. Permitting would have to be obtained from DEP in order to do that.
But John, doesn't that end at the decel lane? In other words, it's bringing you up to the decel lane,
Yeah.
coming into the development.
That should.
If I remember it correctly, and
That's
based on what
Yes.
John has shown on the plan, that's correct. This
Where the
orange
road
line
is extra
does
wide.
end at the decel.
Yep.
Right.
So you're
So
gonna,
you're
you're gonna,
actually
you-
on pavement.
you're gonna dump people out there when people come flying down Paulings Road to make a right in the meadows. And you're gonna put those people at risk, where these people wanna put people at
No.
risk.
No.
For-
No,
What do you mean no?
because it would just be,
I know,
basically,
I know.
Kevin, you didn't walk this, but we did. You can come along to the end of that orange dot there, orange line, come out a little bit onto Paulings for a short distance, then once you're past that culvert, hook back in, because there's a huge grassy strip there that's part of Mr. Nolan's property that goes up and abuts the Revolutionary Boulevard sidewalk. So it's just a little bump out and then back in again.
Well, I would also doubt very much that PennDOT's going to approve a trail, a macadam trail ending at a decel lane
Mhm.
within their right of way. I don't believe that they would,
What about a gravel trail ending there?
I don't think they would approve that either.
So what
That,
would
that's
your
just
suggestion
my gut
be?
reaction. I can't say more conclusively than that.
John, what would your suggestion be so that?
Hang on.
The
Ma-
validity can be.
Barbara, hang on. You made a motion, it was not seconded, with waiver conditions. Now, is anybody gonna second that?
I'll
That's a-
second it.
You second it. Do you wanna
Well,
read
if-
that again?
If this trail isn't good, if this walking path or whatever you wanna call it, isn't gonna do, if PennDOT won't approve it, then what's the point?
Yeah, don't put it in.
That was my question to John. Can we approve the waiver with the conditions as stated by Bill, with the premise being that a walkable amenity would be provided by Mr. Nolan?
I don't know that we can conclusively say that at this point in time. I think there needs to be some type of discussion with PennDOT. Because again, this terminates at a deceleration lane where vehicles are gonna be.
Right,
At a high rate of speed, as
Right.
Kevin said, as they decrease speed to make the turn into Revolutionary Boulevard.
right.
There's no way I can see that PennDOT's going to approve pedestrians
I don't either.
directed onto a travel lane.
Yeah, okay, what about another option here, which could be a wooden bridge that spans that culvert?
Come on.
No, go over to East Goshen Park.
Why don't we
alright?
put
Take a look
people
at
in
what they've
balloons
done
and
over
fly
there.
them over?
No, never happened.
Let it go.
Well, the motion was to grant the waiver with conditions. Is that correct?
Give them the waiver.
I think so, yes.
That's what I think.
Okay.
I think.
I'm a little uncertain about the extent of the length that was proposed.
I am too.
Well, I
happen to
don't
agree
think
with
we
you,
should be
Bill.
specific. If we want to grant him,
We've got to be specific for the developer.
let me finish.
And with our taxpayers, we've got to
I'm
come
not
down with
arguing
a certain
that.
resolution to get it
that we-
passed.
We're dealing
Okay.
with a sketch
May I
plan
have a
here.
turn now?
Of course.
Barbara,
Okay.
we're dealing with a sketch.
You've had a
plan.
turn.
I know,
We're
We've
not
talked
dealing
at
with
least
an
10 minutes
engineered
on it.
walkway here.
It's a preliminary plan, though, so.
it's just,
I think we ought to summarize it and,
we're dealing with the concept here, not with the specifics. And so, I'd like to amend the motion that I originally made, and that we,
just cancel your
Okay.
motion and make a new motion. It wasn't seconded, so you can go ahead and make another motion.
Jim's did second.
Oh, Jim did second?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so,
Well, then I got to vote on it. We got to vote on
how about if I withdraw that motion?
it. You got to talk to, no,
I'll agree to withdraw if you got something better.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we grant the waiver with the condition that Mr. Nolan provide a walkable resource for the residents of his community.
I could buy that.
To where?
At this point, none of us can say where. That point has been made.
So that will come up as a variance at another time then?
Yes.
I think that's just a minute.
Well, I could buy that.
Well,
So I need a second.
just a moment.
Wait a minute.
Let Bill,
See, I just don't know what that means.
I know, I don't know what that means either.
I mean,
I'm used to
Mary,
writing grants, not
hang on.
making motions.
Mary?
Okay, so if terminating this trail at the decel lane may not be a good idea when you're looking at it from PennDOT's point of view, what if, just so you can get a trail in, if the board is looking to do this, put a loop at the end so you walk up, turn around, and walk back again?
I like that.
That way you have your trail in, it doesn't connect to anything, and it gives the residents a place to walk. Just put a
And it
little
doesn't
eye loop at the end.
Thank you, Mary.
I don't know if that's, I'm not an engineer, so that's.
Well, that's why I made my motion vague, because we're talking preliminary without the land being studied from an engineering perspective.
We gotta address the surface. I think gravel. I agree.
I'll make the motion then, so
Should
we
terminate.
So I think we can do that then.
How about a gravel
I think we can do that then.
Gravel
I think if we do what Mary just suggested.
Yeah,
But now,
So we gotta make a
Bill
motion now.
wants to know if it should be paved or not.
I don't want it to be
know that it's-
paved.
that At this point, does it matter?
No,
I didn't say, I didn't.
does it doesn't have to be paved, does it?
Right, I mean,
shouldn't have to be paid.
Well, you gotta have some
Should be a walking
specificity here, because you know, it's not
Is
gonna.
that going?
do we have to specify whether it's paved and the width
Well,
of it at this point?
This is a motion that will guide what happens with this preliminary plan. And if it's not clear, if it's ambiguous, you don't get it, basically. So if the
Okay.
goal with a motion dealing with a formal approval of a preliminary plan is to be as precise and specific as possible. And
Just add a turnaround on that, though.
Well, all right, well, I think.
But Bill, on the
we'll
other
deal-
hand, can it not be refined
Well,
between preliminary and final? We're talking about a very
All right.
minor part of this.
I've known Mr. Nolan a long time, he's an honorable guy. I think if he understands that he's obligated to do a walkable resource, we can work something out. But you need to know that, you know, if it's not to your liking later on, if it's not written in the plan, you may not get it.
That's leaving it too much.
So I think if we have this path, it doesn't connect to Revolutionary Boulevard,
Correct.
so it stays within the property.
Fine with me.
I think, am I under the impression here that the neighbors are okay with that? Because it doesn't connect to the neighborhood, am I correct about that? I think we should make a motion to approve this as it is with some sort of a loop to have it go back and stay within the property.
All
I'll
right.
second that
And
motion.
Is it gravel, is it paved, or is it just leave it
Gravel.
vague?
At this point, I don't really care about that. You know, I mean,
Being on the far
but
side of
if we need
70,
to
I'd like
put
it
that in
paved.
there, I think someone needs to make a decision
right,
about
let's
that, but
just-
I don't care
Hang
about
on,
that.
hang on.
Let's leave it vague, we'll worry about it later, and we'll deal with it when it comes up. All right?
All right, the motion's been made.
Yeah, let's get.
Martha made the motion and I seconded. Actually, Mary stated the facts of the motion.
I made a motion to,
Barbara made a motion,
Nobody voted on it.
I'll withdraw the motion.
and it was withdrawn.
Yeah, and let Martha.
another motion.
Yes.
Yes.
You wanna make it Martha?
I don't think it was withdrawn, did he?
I did not
He
second
accepted
it.
the withdrawal of that motion.
And then you made another motion.
And
No,
I
she didn't.
Was not seconded.
I just, okay.
Is that on the table? Are we?
No, I withdraw that one too. Now, Martha made a motion based on Mary's verbiage.
I made a motion to approve the path as it's drawn on that red line on this, so that it doesn't connect to Revolutionary Boulevard. That-
This is about the waiver. You are moving to approve the waiver.
Granting the
The-
waiver.
with the condition.
Subject to a condition. The condition will be described now.
Okay.
Do I hear a
Go
second?
for it, Martha.
That the walking path or trail or whatever, whatever you want to call it, I don't really care at this point. that it looks like it does on this red line on this map, and that the end does some sort of a loop to go back so that this walking path is contained in this property and doesn't connect to anywhere else.
And I'll second that.
Any more discussion?
Get all that, Madeline?
I call for a vote.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
No.
No?
Democracy.
Now, Bill, did it take care of the next motion?
You still have to make the next motion, which
Right.
is the approval of the
Wait,
preliminary
That's right,
plan.
right.
There's a resolution in front of you that
I got
contains
it,
the
yeah.
standard terms of
That's in accordance with this.
approval, and I've
That's
gone over
dated
these with
today,
Mr.
January
Steiner,
5th.
who is Mr. Nolan's lawyer. He had no problem with them from our meeting.
Comment on this, Bill. This revolution, as presented to us, is okay up to a point, but it has these options relative to granite curbing and the sidewalk, so we have to clean this language up.
Mary, did you get today the update?
Right,
Yeah.
and they have the update in front of them, where it has the three choices, the three
Right.
boxes, yes.
All right, so in terms of the waiver request, the third box would be appropriate because it's just what we
According
did
to
in the
this.
past.
Right, it was emailed to the board today, it's on the.
Which
board
has-
tonight.
This, you've got a copy of it right in your,
It's in there.
No, I don't know
It's the
that
one
I
that
did.
looks
that's
like
part of it.
Okay, I got it.
Page 6.
Yeah.
I didn't print it on.
You gotta read.
So the resolution that's before you is to approve the preliminary subdivision plan, which is the plan for Valley Forge Meadows Company, Inc., last revised November 24th, September 11th, 2014, containing the standard terms for approval of a project of this type. On page 6, there is a reference to waiver request number 4, and that's been resolved by your prior motion, granting the waiver with the condition that resulted from your discussion. So before you is the resolution for your consideration.
Right, I got it.
Make the motion.
I make that motion,
Second.
I have a question,
okay?
Bill. This preliminary, I only saw once a sketch of what the buildings would look like. And if I vote to approve the architectural design of this building, does that constitute approval of his final plan? Because Mr. Nolan, with all due respect, and I say this as a design professional, your building looks like a Chinese menu with one from column A and one from column B. Palladio invented his windows in 1570. El Frisali followed the Greek pediment in 1761. I'd like to see you build your buildings. They're modern. Don't hark back to architectural styles with a little bit of stucco, a little bit of stone, and a Greek pediment at the top. So my question to you is, if I vote to approve this preliminary plan, am I voting to approve his architectural design?
It's on the plans. Are there designs on the plans?
We were asked to submit sketch plans to show what the building might look like.
Is that
Is
part
that
of the
these
plan
here,
package?
Jim?
No.
So then the answer is no.
So
So these-
buildings don't have to look
is
like
that
what
these?
Martha's showing?
No.
Yeah.
Correct. No.
So I could approve the preliminary
But
plan?
you don't have to approve it, you got other people to make it or not
I
make
just
it.
want to clarify what I'm voting for, that's all.
Well, it's been explained.
Let me be clear, if it's not in the plan, it's not binding. Now, Mr. Nolan has submitted some drafts in terms of what they look like, but the township is in no position to require that they look like that or anything else.
Or that they not look like this?
Correct.
We don't have design constraints on our ordinance,
Okay.
other than height. And
All right.
few other-
Motion's been made,
I second it.
seconded,
This is to sign the resolution.
yes, yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
I'm going to abstain based on the design.
good. Passed.
doesn't like the design.
based on my concerns regarding the architectural design of the building.
Okay.
You have to abstain with a reason.
All right, the next item for us is a motion to approve the Phoenixville Area School District Early Learning Center Elementary School Preliminary Plan Resolution 2015-06. Mr. Bellower?
Good evening, Supervisors. Andrew Bellower on behalf of the school district. On December 17th, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the preliminary plan. The preliminary plan complies with the zoning ordinance, and the township engineer, Gilmore and Associates, has recommended that the Planning Commission move forward, sending the plan to the Board of Supervisors for action. This is subject, of course, to the matters within the Gilmore review letter of December 12th. The Planning Commission also recommended approval of 10 out of 11 Saldo waivers. Gilmore had recommended approval of 10 out of those 11, and the district agrees and withdraws the request, the 11th of those matters. So there are 10 waivers before you today.
Excuse me, Andy, which was the one that was withdrawn?
It was the, bear with me. The third of the requests under the stormwater ordinance.
Okay, all right, okay, that's why it's
I
not
think
there.
it's C14.
That's
is
why
the
it's not there.
subsection.
Okay.
Got it. The district introduced the plan in July of last year, 2014. There have been numerous public meetings where the plan has been discussed, the plan has been reviewed, the plan has been revised in order to take into account the feedback the district received from the neighbors. We're in front of the Planning Commission 4 months in a row, and that led up to their recommendation that the board move forward with this. So we request that the board take the action. I understand there is a resolution before the board tonight.
On that resolution, we have this Exhibit A, which is the waivers, deals with the waivers.
I think Exhibit A is the Gilmore letter, and B, I think, is the waiver.
No, I've got this all stapled together.
The Gilmore letter is Exhibit A, it's just not attached.
Oh, all right, well, then the list, I'm talking about the list of waivers, the
That's
one page.
Exhibit B.
Right.
The one pager. It's just a minor word issue, I think. The second request under stormwater.
Right.
311C13. It's a waiver from requirement 50-foot setback from property boundary or ultimate right-of-way line with respect to the basin. Is it east of Pot House entrance or west?
It is east.
Is it, which is it? East? It really is east? So there's, looking at the entrances to the right?
That's correct.
Okay. No problem.
Any other questions from my colleagues?
One of them is the waiver for requirements, there'll be no grading within 5 feet of the property line. That's all the way around?
No. Refer to the engineer for the project.
That's relative to areas between parcels that are owned by the school district.
Okay.
And for area along Pot House Road.
Okay.
That's needed for grading for the H&P improvements.
Okay. You okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. I don't have any issues.
Any other questions? Anybody, so many people have signed in.
Yep.
All right, start lining up. Let's go.
Good evening. I'd like to first just go over a few of the words that were spoken to neighbors and such on December 3rd at your zoning hearing meeting. I'm sorry, Donna Much, Meadowbrook Lane. Some of the verbiage that was used was there would be ability to possibly limit some of the seating, look at the space between fields, look at the space between the fields and Meadowbrook Lane, talk about lights and sound. And a lot of these concerns might come under as conditional approval for the plan. We got together and put a presentation in front of the Planning Commission with 3 major topics: stormwater management, lights and sound, as well as the number of fields. Enclosed in your packets that you received tonight are some of the slides from that presentation, which we incorporated with a report from our engineer from Metz Engineering.
May I just stop you for 1 minute? I received your packet at 6:25 today.
We apologize.
Now,
for
how do
that.
you expect any of us to rationally
We apologize
read
for
it
that, sir.
and thoroughly approve it or consider it at that time, at that small time, when we started our meeting at 7 o'clock?
Unfortunately, it did not.
Because
arrive
I like to
until-
read my material.
We all do.
We apologize for that. Unfortunately, because of the holidays,
I do
we were.
understand. Excuse me, I wanted to.
And also, we did not know until your agenda was public on the website that this was going to be. So, we had short notice too.
Oh, did you? Okay,
Okay, we did not know. We had to prepare quickly.
okay.
Yes, Friday afternoon. Thank you, Peter. We waited to address the specific concerns of this school district site plans until the school district site plans were made public. Although other people and yourselves, as well as the planning commission, did see some of the plans ahead of time, we did not because they were not made public until December. It should first be noted that Mr. Belwar responded quite vehemently to our presentation, that the planning commission could not tell a homeowner or a landowner how to develop their property, and the commission could not tell them how to design the fields. If you did not attend that meeting, it's hard for me to say, but he was very dramatic in how he spoke on this subject. Specifically, the school district denied all requests from the homeowners of Meadowbrook Lane on such items as installing a berm, providing a covenant to exclude lighting, and repositioning some of the fields. Our first concern was stormwater. Specifically, according to the plans, these fields will be 3 to 4 feet higher than Meadowbrook Lane. The stormwater, which for decades has run easterly off Meadowbrook Lane, will now have a more difficult path to travel. It is the school district's opinion they complied with the ordinances. But I go back to a quote from Mr. Fagley some time ago, in which he stated that stormwater along Meadowbrook Lane would be improved with this project. I see not. Paramount to their stormwater management plan is the fact that maintenance on the swales must be kept up so that debris and leaves do not block the piping. Considering the maintenance performed since September 20th by the school district, I am not very hopeful that their maintenance will be good and valid, and our homes will be flooded. The new landscape plan that the school district provided to the planning commission, we had not seen. And it did include more bushes and a couple more trees. But as we all know, just because you put in bushes and trees, you're still going to hear what's going on. And Kevin spoke of that quite well. Even though he can't see the band being played, he can still hear it down in the meadows. So that's quite evident that a lot of real estate is needed to abate noise. And when you consider the fact that these fields in front of my house are just 89 feet from the property line and 100 feet from my mailbox, at another point they are 92 feet from the property line. These fields are very close. This regional sports complex goes well beyond the need for additional classrooms. Transportation of athletes to off-campus fields is an unfortunate dilemma, but since the cost of this busing has never been divulged after repeated requests, how can taxpayers be certain that we will be saving tax dollars? Our presentation to the Planning Commission began with the hope that dialogue between the school district, the township, and ourselves would be ongoing. We did our due diligence, as you suggested, with absolutely no willingness to negotiate by this property owner. The school district will cite numerous meetings with neighbors which were held throughout 2014. Please don't take their words at face value. Invitations to their original meetings, excuse my expression, were piss poor and unprofessional. How many people who don't have children in the school district would open a communication laid on their front porch that's addressed to neighbor? Now the ball is in your court tonight. And we hope that, unfortunately, you have not had time to read all the material, but that you will consider the material. Thank you.
Please state your name so our secretary can.
My name is John Moraz. I reside on Meadowbrook Lane. To be clear, we are not opposed to the construction of the school, but are opposed to the mega campus and the increasing cost of this kindergarten and early learning center. The cost of this project has gone from $50 million estimate to $80 million and possibly to $100 million in the end. At each meeting we have attended, both school and township, over the last 9 months, we were told there would be a time for the residents to speak up and make suggestions. Meetings were held, we spoke up, and are still doing so. And now we are told it's too late by the school attorney at the planning commission when he said we can't make changes. We have made our concerns and desire for compromise abundantly clear. The planning commission, the school board, and on multiple occasions. This plan will probably be the largest single development that will be built in this township for years to come. Even one of the supervisors at the board meeting was unaware of the East Pikeman School being closed. With the rezoning of this site, which we objected to in November, we were told by the supervisors that our concerns would be heard and considered per an article in the Pottstown Mercury of 11/14. Mr. Jim Morrison said he understands the concerns of the residents, but we've had a positive reaction to the school district's layout of the facility and feels this district is doing its best to take neighbors' concerns into account. Mr. Morrison continued to say that the supervisors could still have the school district make adjustments to the plan. He also said, quote, "We can get them to agree to certain things that residents have brought to up, and that their lawyer seems to be willing to discuss it." Mr. Morrison ended by saying, quote, "I'm sympathetic to the residents. I'm sympathetic to their concerns and will do our damnedest to make it as burdenless as possible. But if you allow the school district to build this mega sports campus, as presented with preliminary plans, that includes a sports complex of 6 fields with a concession stand, a press box, up to 1,000 bleachers, sound systems on these fields, the township will suffer from congestion and the nearby residents will encounter many new problems. What is the plan for the evacuation of this entire campus? Has that been discussed? And what will be the added cost of the township, not just for the local school, which will include 1,200 students and over 200 staff, but for weekends when all the fields are being used? Is the school district paying any impact fees, as some developers do, when their plans are approved? The Chester County Planning Commission also said that the residents on Meadowbrook Lane should be given considerations for the noise. Trees, an additional 171 trees is not going to solve the sound situation. A reduction of 6 fields to 3, or moving 2 fields to another location, could solve the issue and improve the overall site for this development. We have heard individuals say different things on various issues. Sound systems, lighting, traffic studies are showing an average of 300 additional vehicles per day. When you have 1,200 students and staff plus 6 fields with a max of 1,000 bleachers, it doesn't add up. At 250 parking spaces, what is that? The school said the overflow can be used by other parking lots in the different parcel, but does that conform to the township ordinance? The school will tell you what they need is that the school, because the other township refused variances to build the school, and that the kindergarten center is very old and needs a replacement. And at 6 fields, they want to construct are necessary because they bus 19 teams. The study that they gave us or presented showed that the fields were under development or design back in summer of 2013. At that time, they had approximately 12 different people to design these fields. At no time did they come to the neighbors to see what we thought about the situation. There were some active coaches, community volunteers, 2 design professionals, administration, and board members from the school. But nowhere did the neighbors request to be present. Is this a school or a sports complex? 6 fields we talked about the planning commission. We suggested we'd like to compromise to 3 fields, or even move 2 fields over to the eastern part of the project. But the school said there's no way we can make these changes. I'm not going to go into details on the $81 million cost, or a comparison of how the school district compares to other schools with test scores. That's something to be discussed at the school meetings.
Thank
But-
you.
But when the school spends close to $1 million on athletics currently, and less than $15,000 on academics teams, the additional 6 fields will increase the disproportionate between athletics and academics. This site also concerns the water runoff. One of the reasons we hired an engineer was to make sure that the plans were correctly reviewed as an outsider. Us people in Meadowbrook Lane paid for that engineer ourselves. And the comments were given to the planning commission. Before they even read them, they approved this to go to preliminary approval. So when we talk about reading and hearing things, the planning commission didn't even take into consideration our engineer study. We gave the planning commission petitions to sign by over 50 residents, and that wasn't even looked at. We request that the compromise we suggested is taken seriously by you, the supervisors, before these preliminary plans are considered. This compromise is good for the township and all the residents. Thank you.
Any comments?
I just want to ask a question of the last 2 people here. Your engineer wrote to the planning commission a whole list of 50 some odd items. 50 some odd items, okay. The school district's engineer
Answer them.
responded to that.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yes.
Yes, we read them. Every one of them complies with your ordinance. We got that.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure you got this document.
But following up on your question, Mr. Morrison, one of the reasons we asked him to look at the design was to see if there were any alternatives. And as you were at the meeting at that planning commission, you saw that there were alternative plan designs for that site. You have currently 6 fields smack dab right in that section between the entrance to the school and Meadowbrook Lane. 2 of those fields could be developed over on the other side of the site.
No, they can't.
I'm sorry, what was that, Mr.?
No, they can't.
They can't. Well,
Eliminate them.
that was one alternative. But again,
That's one of the suggestions, yes.
that was one of the suggestions. Nowhere, again, when we talk about compromise, have we heard this? Yes, we attended one of the 59 meetings that they suggested that took place. But as Don has mentioned, the first meetings that were ever attended was from our front steps. We did not even get one. And that was delivered by one of the employees of the school district. So when you talk about and hear about what they did for the neighbors, there has not been any compromise. They're going to say 171 trees. They go beyond that. 171 trees is not going to give you the sound. So, again, we talk about compromise. We've heard over an hour and a half, or close to an hour, about Nolan properties. It's taken 8 years for him to get to this point. This is going to go through your place, the supervisors, who we elected to protect our assets here, in less than maybe a year and a half.
Okay.
For a $100 million project?
Sir?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Howard Brown. I'm an attorney for Pickering Glen Homeowners Association. Earlier today, I sent a letter to your township manager requesting several items. Number one, that we, Pickering Glen, be admitted as a party to these proceedings, and that I be given an opportunity to receive copies of notices of meetings and plans. To date, we have not, I have not received copies of all of the plans for this project. The township, I'm sorry, the Pickering Glen Association, I'll just refer to them as the association, they have several concerns
I read your letter.
You read my letter. We'd like to have an opportunity to talk about it in this venue, if that's okay.
Can I just interrupt you for a
yes.
second? Again, we just received your letter today.
Yes.
Yep.
And I understand that you didn't receive anything yet. That kind of stuff takes time to get
I was going
to
to.
you.
Well, we've been
Thank you, Martha.
We've been talking to the school district for several weeks, several months, actually.
But we didn't get your letter, though.
We didn't get your
understand.
request until today.
I understand,
Exactly.
which is of
Okay.
concern because we have been talking to the school district for
Yeah,
some
I
time.
understand that.
And you're, as I fear, we're unaware of these issues. And that's the reason why we're here. Well, I mean, that's why we're here, is to talk about
Fine.
the issues of concern. We've had, I think, candid dialogue with the school district, and in fact, met with the school district last month on the 12th of December. We met with Steve Sienna, the solicitor for the school district, and with Stan Johnson, who's the director of buildings and the grounds. And as I said, I thought it was a productive discussion because we were able to identify the issues of concern. And essentially, there are 5 issues of concern, in no particular order. Traffic is, the traffic improvements are of paramount importance to
We
the
know that.
association.
We're
Of course,
aware of that.
Of course.
We're aware of the traffic problems, the stormwater management problems, EAC problems are there. We're
trail.
aware of that, and we're not here to vote on the variances tonight. We're here so the school district can start working to get an RFP out for their preliminary plan so they can open the schools for our children to go to school in 2017.
Right, and I understand that, Mr. Chairman. Here's the problem. We didn't learn about this vote until Saturday morning.
But that's not our fault.
May I?
Wait a minute, let him finish, let him
We
finish.
did not learn, I did not see the agenda for this motion for preliminary plan approval until Saturday morning. I checked Friday afternoon on the website, it was not there. When I saw it Saturday morning, to be frank, I was a little surprised. I had just spoken to the the school district solicitor last week, and he had indicated to me that the next meeting, public meeting, was going to be on the 5th.
That's correct.
As you know, preliminary plan approval is a significant milestone in the project.
I
in
understand
the
that.
life of a project, okay? I talked to Mr. Sienna today. He was not aware, as of Friday, that this project was up for preliminary plan approval either.
That's
Mr.
hard for me to
Belmar,
May I
believe.
make a comment,
make a
Craig?
comment to
It's
that,
logical to assume,
One at a time,
it's
go ahead.
logical to assume that with our planning commission having given their approval in December at their meeting, that it would naturally be on the agenda for our meeting this evening.
Echo that thought, upon application, anybody who might be opposed to it, anybody in favor of it, has to be aware that under the municipality's planning code, that a municipality has 90 days to act on that application. So the fact that we filed back in September put everybody on notice that this board could have acted, December. Now it's January. Of course, those plans were on file at the township as of September. Amended plans were on file as of mid-November. So to say, for anybody to say that I couldn't get those plans, all they had to do was come to the township and ask for them. All they had to do was follow a right-to-know request, and they could get them.
Okay, let the gentleman
If I may,
finish.
Hold on a second. Excuse me.
And unless you're making a question, Jim,
I've got
directly to this gentleman here,
Directly to Mr., no,
Fine.
directly to Mr.
Okay.
Belbar. You mentioned the 90-day clock.
Yes.
Okay, has that been reset a bit, or what are we looking at here in terms of making a decision within 90 days?
Well, you're within 90 days of an amended plan.
Okay.
You're outside of the 90 days of the original application.
Okay, so the amended plan, 90-day clock ends when?
I think end of this month, depends when we file that plan.
Well, that's an important question because, you know, we could postpone this a month possibly.
You certainly could, and the reason the district is pushing for it tonight, the reason the district has pushed for this at every stop along the way, is the fact that presently, there are 18 trailers that house students on a daily basis. They're taught in those trailers. The school district has a timeline for this project. If that timeline gets pushed back here, it gets pushed back on the opening date. And if the opening date of the fall of 2017 gets pushed back, now you're looking at least a half year, if not a year, when it gets pushed back. That's the reason we're asking for not an expedited review, but a standard review of this plan. And of course, we're standing before you saying it complies. The township engineer has reviewed it. He says it complies. The neighbors hired an engineer who set forth 52 separate points. We've responded to each of them and shown how we've met all the ordinance requirements.
Exactly.
I've heard the idea that why don't you just reduce 2 fields? Well, the fact is the district owns this land. The district can do with it what it wants, just like anyone who buys land can do with it what it wants, subject to restrictions within the ordinance. We're complying with the ordinance. So we're asking you to address this tonight.
12 people.
Can we ask for a motion and questions? I'd like to.
Hey, let Mr. Brown finish, please.
Thank you. So, again, I'm not here to debate about the timing. I'm here to say, again, a lot has been made, at least in our discussions with the school district. And again, they've been productive discussions. They've been, they've been productive and I think useful for us and for the school district. But a lot's been made about transparency and acting, in an open book fashion. And it's in that vein that I'm here tonight, that I wrote the letter, number 1, and number 2, because I wanted the township to know that these are the concerns we have met with the township, with the school district. And we were able to identify these several issues. The transportation improvements, which you say you understand, okay? There is a major concern on Pickering Glen's, on the association's part, that you are going to have cut-through traffic through the entrance of Trotter's Drive that's closest to the firehouse, in order to circumvent or at least cut through to get to that light, to that main intersection. We talked to the school district about having some type of plan for traffic calming or controlled devices or signage. That's something that the school district thought was reasonable when we met, and encouraged us to raise as an issue. Another issue that we've talked about is stormwater management. There are substantial road improvements planned for Pot House. We looked at those plans for the first time at that meeting on December 12th. And I can tell you, at that main intersection where the access is proposed, just from looking at that plan, which at the time had not received the review letter. I think the review letter was issued the following day, coincidentally, or the day after. But in any event, that entrance has an existing stormwater or ponding situation right at that entrance, where you've got the median and water channels in through that median. And when we looked at the stormwater management, when we looked at the road improvement plan, it was plain as day that the geometry of the road, once it's finished, the contour was channeling more water into that, was going to sheet flow more water into that area. And you could see it right on the plan. The district said they'd look at that. They thought that was something that could be addressed through engineering. They'd be able to mitigate that.
Excuse me, you're talking about the intersection of 29 and Pot House?
No, I'm talking about the intersection of Trotters and the main access, the proposed main entrance in the back there, okay?
Yeah.
When the road is improved, it has to comply, there has to be certain, the road will crown.
Right.
And what I'm saying is when we looked at the plan contours, water was being diverted effectively into Trotter's Drive. So that was exacerbating an already problematic condition. Hopefully that's something that's going to be addressed in subsequent versions of the road improvement plan. In addition, we've had discussions about buffering and screening and providing landscaping. based on discussions that I have had with the solicitor for the school district and conversations that my clients, the members of my clients have had with Stan Johnson and members of the school district, it appears
Yeah, I
that
agree.
they want to work with my client to put an enhanced screening and buffering. And in fact, I think this is an appropriate type of situation per your land development ordinance to provide for transition areas between uses. Nothing has been shown on the plan. We want to make sure that these issues that we've talked about are, all of these issues that we've talked about, where we've got agreement or where we have said, agreed with the school district that more work needs to be done. We want to make sure that these issues are somehow protected, that the horse doesn't leave the barn, so to speak, by the granting of the preliminary plan approval, if that's in fact what happens tonight. We want to make sure that all of these items are reserved and protected for, you know, my client, for the homeowners association. We had a discussion about earthen berms from the very beginning, even before my involvement in this matter. Earthen berms were discussed in addition to tree plantings.
They said it wasn't feasible in their response.
They said that the site was not necessarily going to generate excess fill material. That may or may not be the case. I haven't seen the plans. I haven't evaluated the dirt analysis. I don't know. But I know that was something that from the very beginning was discussed as something that could be done on my client's behalf along the Podhouse Hill frontage to give it some contour in addition to the trees. It would certainly make that view shed, you know, nice and appealing. The other issue that we need to talk about.
Try to sum it up as much as you can.
I'm sorry?
He's asking you to finish
Okay.
as soon as you can.
Okay, well, the other issue that we need to talk about is obviously the walking trail maintenance. By virtue of this additional learning center and the kindergarten, you're putting a substantial amount of additional foot traffic on that walking trail. And that maintenance responsibility currently belongs with the association. The association is very concerned about this additional load that you're putting on the walking trail. And as between the parties to these proceedings, that it's not appropriate for the association to bear that additional burden. And that is something that we have talked about with the school district. We have not had an opportunity to talk to, and when I say the school district, I mean Mr. Sienna and Mr. Johnson. I don't believe they've talked to their board yet about that. But it's an issue that's important. It's an issue that I think needs to be discussed. It's an issue of paramount concern to my client. As I said, probably not the better party or the appropriate party to be saddled with that burden. The last item, of course, is there are easements that the district will need from the association because they're going to be installing stormwater management facilities in the common area, in the common property. My client is concerned, with damage that could be caused as a result of the construction of those improvements, and also the ongoing maintenance responsibilities moving forward.
They addressed that in the response to you.
Well, I understand. My concern is that somehow this is incorporated into the approval and it's addressed so that we're not, if it's a condition or something, so that it's not forgotten or lost, in the mix. So with that, I'll conclude.
All right, before anybody gets into this, does anybody have questions for Mr. Brown?
No.
Go ahead. If they don't, okay. Then we'll, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you have anything to say, let's try, you've already spoken. Do you want to?
Would you like me to respond to those or hold that for the moment?
Why don't we make a motion and set the
Hang on. One thing I want to explain to everybody else. We're talking about a preliminary approval of the plan build the school and the early learning center, not the fields, not the lights.
That's part of the plan.
Excuse me.
It's all part of it.
Okay, but you've got to understand that the school district has to open that school because the rest of the children, everybody, 3,300 other people that go to those school districts, go to East Pikeland, go to Schuylkill, they're starting to get overpopulated, and the pupil attendance is important.
Brad, we're getting out of hand.
Go ahead, Pete, what are you gonna say quickly?
Why can't they work it out with us? They do not want to talk to us.
That's
okay?
not true.
That's not true.
No,
That's
okay,
not true.
I said it the wrong way. They're not listening, okay?
I'd like to.
Are you
We have
listening?
concerns.
Are you, may
Wait a
I
minute,
address
let me-
him, please?
We have concerns. We have concerns,
You,
okay, that
if
have
your
not been
lawyer
addressed.
expressed those concerns, Pete, now you need
No,
to
you have
be
not.
respectful. Yes.
The zoning board,
I need to
the
answer
zoning
him.
board and John Sartor, your engineer, didn't even look at the traffic study.
No.
Did not even
Pete,
look
excuse
at
me,
it.
no, that's not true.
When I asked you at the
asked
planning
me if I had looked at it, and I was being truthful with you. I said no.
Okay,
I did not, but the traffic engineers in our company did.
okay.
They reviewed it.
I want to
But
They
say
provided
something that's
comments.
important.
The school district's
did.
engineers replied back. Those comments were forwarded to PennDOT. PennDOT is reviewing the traffic issues associated with this development.
Okay, so they did, you didn't,
I did not,
and
no.
you basically
But the
talked to
traffic
them
engineers,
about it.
if our company,
Yes.
Regardless.
Company, Fred,
Okay,
I'd like to
Please.
address.
can I just have a minute?
You have,
This is
no,
important.
he gave you a minute now. I need to be able to respond to you in the way that you have addressed us, with respect and with objectivity. We are not dealing with a developer shark who's going to consume an important property in the township. We are talking about a school district that has been responsible and responsive. And you cannot, please don't interrupt. We let you talk. Let me finish my statement, please. Thank you. We are dealing with the school district that is responsible and responsive. They offered a fair market value for that property, but because of a family squabble over money, they were forced to endure a whole year of going through an eminent domain process, and they did. They have come to the Historic Commission. They have come to the EAC. Obviously, they've gone to the Planning Commission. There have been innumerable discussions. This is a plus. Think about it this. Think of your property values going up because again,
You cannot say that.
because think of your property values going up because moms and dads will be able to walk
you know-
across
okay.
the street with their children to school.
Do you know what the most
Respect that it's the
significant
school
reason
district.
why our home values are gonna go up? Do you
This-
know what the most significant reason why our home values are gonna go up? Is because they're finally gonna fix the intersection of Pothouse Road and 29, which could have been done and fixed back in 2000. You know who stopped it? Do you know who stopped it? Your supervisors. Your supervisors said that they wanted a rural community and also they
None of
didn't
us
want
were
the
around
traffic.
back then.
Excuse
None
me.
of us were
Shouting.
around back then.
I wasn't even around at
It
that
doesn't
time.
matter. What
It does matter.
It does
We're
not matter.
talking about people whom you should
You're
respect.
talking about
They're
70 people
Josh
in that,
Gould
and
and
I had
they're
70
elect-
people from our community
These
that
are
are
elected
concerned.
officials
We have
who are
concerns
responsive
that
to our
need to be
township.
addressed before you make any decisions. Safety. Safety's an issue.
Actually,
I
I
was a
I
school
have a
board
question
director
for
then.
Bill,
Hmm?
and
I
I
was a
think
school board director in
Peter and
2000.
I'm sorry, I forgot your name. They have questions and concerns, and I think some of them need to be addressed, or
They
all
will
of them
be.
need to be addressed. Is the resolution the right place to put it, or should should we put conditions to this,
Well, all
or?
of this, let me back up and say
Okay.
that, happily for me, I don't vote, but in terms of what the law is here, we have a zoning ordinance and a SALDO.
Right.
And if recommendations are made to the school district by the residents and their engineer. They can negotiate, they can deal, and whatever promises are made beyond the existing ordinances, they're made. That we're not involved in that.
Okay.
In terms of what the board's job is under the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, we rely on our engineers to evaluate whether the plan meets the codes.
Okay,
If the plan meets the codes, you have no other choice but to approve it.
okay,
If it doesn't meet the codes, then you should appropriately deny it.
okay,
And in terms of other discussions and negotiations, that's fine. We're not building anything. The township is not building roads. The
Right.
township is not involved in the details of the actual construction. The function of local government in this process is only to make certain that the plans are properly reviewed and properly approved.
okay.
And I can't comment on a lot of these other matters. My goal is to make sure we proceed in an orderly fashion
That's right.
and follow the rules.
Okay.
And, you know, in terms of whether it's better or worse, it's not your concern. So the only question is, does this plan meet the ordinances? If it does, you should approve it. If it doesn't, you should not.
Okay.
And our
All
planning
right,
commission said yes. And you
hang
said
on.
yes.
I gotta wait, let the other people talk first.
All right, if I can just reply, just briefly interject. I know that what Mr. Brenner just said, I think it's also within, I think it's not unusual for a board to approve projects with conditions imposed. That happens all the time. So I don't think it's an either or, doesn't need to necessarily be an either or situation.
Right, and
Again,
did,
my concern for my client is that we want to make sure that the issues that we've talked about, which have not been firmed up, but they've been good discussions, that we're still going to address those issues.
Right.
We're going to
Sure.
come to a resolution on those issues.
and to answer you properly, it says in our resolution statement that it's granting conditional preliminary land development approval. So that is conditional.
I hadn't seen that, so.
That, I wanted to reassure you on
No,
that
I
matter.
understand.
Okay, sir,
He's been waiting a long time.
he's been waiting. I'll get to you.
Yes, I did. Hi, my name is
You're
Bob
next.
Erb. I do live in Schuylkill Township. First off, I want to say thank you for having the best roads when it snows. I do appreciate that.
Nick left
We do have
already?
the greatest
Yeah.
police department and appreciate that too. All right, now on the business. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but traffic, excuse my French, but traffic sucks everywhere. That's just how it is. I coach baseball. I've been coaching baseball for, well, a really long time. And I just want to know if anybody here,
What's his name? Your name?
my name is Bob Erb
And you live
in Schuylkill Township,
where?
Evergreen Acres. All right. And brother? Yes. That was my uncle. But, and they're playing the Christian college.
Okay, let's
or
go on with the subject. Go ahead.
You know, they might be building that big stadium right in my backyard, and that's how it is, you know. But I coach baseball, and I don't know if anybody out here has been out at Pickering to see 3 baseball teams try to use one practice field. It just doesn't work. Our baseball program has been sinking because of that. We have no baseball fields. We need fields. I also have a second job. I'm a substitute custodian. And has anybody been in these old schools lately?
Yep. Kids went to school there.
Yeah. Have you been in the trailers?
Yes, my kids went to school
Yeah.
there last year.
We need new schools.
Thank you.
Everyone's
Thank you. It's a
Yeah.
benefit to the community
There's
to
one person
consolidate
ahead, we're
waiting
assets.
back.
So we definitely need these new schools. We need these fields. These kids need to play sports. So, God bless you all.
Thank you very
for your
much.
patience.
Thank you.
Sir, you're next.
How you doing?
Then you're next.
My name is Jamie Darren, and I am.
What is your name? I couldn't understand.
Jamie Darren. I live in Pickering Glen, and I don't think that anybody has said that we don't need new schools. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is that you're putting 6 fields, mega complex back there, and that's our concern. And we're looking for protection, and that's really the crux of what's going on here. My huge concern, there are several, but one is the parking. I know it was brought up earlier, brought up a lot of good things, but there's 250 parking spaces, right? This is a money-making opportunity for the school district, and they're gonna go out there and they're gonna lease these fields out and make money. And the only way that, where are they gonna park when all these fields are being used? They're gonna park anywhere they can. The Meadowbrook's protected, they're gonna put no parking up there, God bless them, but they're gonna come into our neighborhood, they're gonna be cutting through, and our kids are gonna have to deal with it. They speed through this neighborhood right now like you wouldn't believe, but now if we have people out there nonstop. The school district also brought up the fact that they can't talk about the lights right now because they don't know what's gonna go on down the road. I think that's a little deception right there. They know that once they're making money on these fields, to make more money, they're gonna need the lights so they can utilize these fields. So that's gonna be an issue. And the speaker systems, it's gonna be brutal, right? In my backyard, it's gonna be right up against their, the new complex, and it's gonna be loud as can be. And I think they made a great point that you're gonna need a mile of trees to cut down any type of noise back there. It's not gonna happen, right? We're not saying don't build the schools, right? Our children deserve the best, there's no doubt about it. But we're not sending our kids to school to be professional athletes, right? There's no need to have 6 fields back there. Cut it back and just help us out. And I think that's the issue. The school district has been very arrogant, honestly, to us, right? If they could work with us, we would probably have gotten this done with them. But they've really been very arrogant about it. It's very disappointing. I'm just asking you really to step back, maybe not vote on this, because it is $100 million, and they're jamming it down our throats, right? That's all.
You're next.
Kathleen Moraz, Meadowbrook Lane. We've talked about how 6 fields are too many. You all completely know, every time we've been up here, we do not oppose the school. Our issue is with the number of fields. We've asked for a compromise. We have not been heard. We were told by our engineer, Barbara, that the field-to-field offsets are at a minimum. The safety of spectators and other players need to be addressed for foul balls and softballs alike. Walking trails, Barbara, along the fields also add many safety concerns, especially with baseball. These fields are shoehorned in there, and I understand that we got, the usual response that the township ordinances, was been followed. I get that. But there should be a concern on all of your parts, and Barbara, especially for people walking on the path, that there is potential here for risk. So not only, and I don't think for a second that, the 19 bus issue, that's the real crux for all these fields. The crux of the matter is they have to use the land, they want to make money out of it, and I also think that the entrance off of Pot House is to accommodate spectators. I don't think it's for the school. I have other thoughts on that. But my biggest concern is also in terms of reduction of the field, it's a safety issue.
Thank you. I wanted to address your concern with lighting. I recently received information on a new product, and it is an LED tape that provides lighting, and I provided that to my colleagues and the engineer. And so that your safety issues, I thought about how safety issues could be addressed. And there is a 21st century lighting alternative that I have recommended.
I'm not talking about lighting, Barbara. I'm talking about reducing the number of fields so that even people walking on the path, which we are also not opposed to, Barbara, are safe, and that the spectators at both fields, 4 fields, are safe. I didn't even bring up lighting, okay?
I brought up lighting, but that's not the lighting I was referring to. I'm referring to the lighting on the ball field. So if you now have lighting at the ball
Well,
field.
they're not proposing lighting in this preliminary plan.
Hang on. I think you're next, ma'am. You're next. Then, sir.
Bernadine Clayton, 8 Meadowbrook Lane. I really don't have anything prepared because I've done that numerous times already. But I'm asking all of you here to think back to November 5th when you told us unequivocally, and Barbara, I believe this is your quote, I want to make clear in your minds okay? That the purpose of this meeting is to discuss the ordinance, and there is a distinction between how the ordinance reads and your concerns about, shall we say, amenities and any other development. This will fall under a preliminary plan review. And we were told time and time again from numerous people on this commission, okay, that our concerns would be heard, that you understood our concerns about the number of fields, about the water issues, about the PA system, about the concession stands, you understood all that. And from day one, we have all said that we are for the school. So on one hand, we hear people talking about education and how important it is, and we have to get this through because of in trailers. Fine, build the school, okay? Let's talk about the fields then at a later date. Or there are so many concerns right now in front of you, and we apologize that this plan wasn't put before you, the presentation that Meadowbrook Lane residents put together for the Planning Commission on December 17th. But again, the agenda just came out, and we saw that this was on the agenda just within the last couple days.
But just to address what you're bringing up, our planning commission has reviewed this. Our engineering firm has reviewed this. It is the best my understanding that the school district has met with you. You have to.
I'm sorry.
May I please just finish my sentence, okay? I'm trying to be respectful to you and have you understand that we need to look at this not in a piecemeal context, but in the context of providing a really positive experience for whether it's recreation, whether it's science, whether it's historic preservation of the buildings in which they're addressing. It's all of the above. It is a much better use for this property than it would have been to have a commercial developer filling it with as many spec houses as that person could fill in and then suck up money and move on to another township.
Well, it depends on what you would approve, doesn't it? Okay? It depends. Now, this goes back to our original many residents who filled that lobby out there and not all of whom had a chance to speak. And I realize it went for 2 hours and we were cut off, but there were more people who wanted to speak at that time, okay? And it goes back to the reason that we were strongly opposed to the passing of the rezoning and the ordinance, because by doing that, you gave the school district and your arrogant, person sitting over here, okay, carte blanche to do whatever they want. Because now we're being told, after all of you told us, okay, so you're either deceitful or foolish, but every single person in this room said that you will be heard before the Planning Commission. Your concerns, we understand all of your concerns.
Weren't you heard by the Planning Commission?
Now we're told, yes we did, but now we're told, that, and as stated by the attorney over here, that as landowners, we can do whatever we want, okay? And that's why we were so against passing the ordinance. By doing that, you people did such a great disservice to the taxpayers. And he can talk about being a landowner. I'm paying the damn taxes that are buying that property, building the school, building these athletics fields. It's my money.
It's all of ours.
Yeah, that's right. So we all should have some say and be heard. So if this has been a farce from the beginning, because there are many people out on Facebook and other social media say this was a done deal, you people are fools, okay? This was a done deal from the beginning. I hope they're wrong. So either you're foolish and were manipulated by the school district, or you're deceivers, because now we're hearing a whole different story. One is bring your concerns about, you'll be heard, you'll be listened to, and now it's like, well, no, we can make recommendations, but that's all we can do. Like, what the heck? What the heck, Barbara?
Excuse me.
Come on. And we're spending more time on walking trails than this.
Did you have a chance to speak?
More time on walking trails. Been up here for months on a walking trail. But they want to push through, let's push through $80-some million project that we're paying for smack in the middle of a neighborhood. And you went against your own land ordinance, okay? Land use, what was the comprehensive land of 2005. Okay? By rezoning, you went against that. Okay? So from day one, I guess you think we're idiots or something.
Not at all. We
Now you
respect.
talk about the value of my home. Let me tell you, Barbara, I live in a very tiny 2-bedroom, 1-bath home. Right across where they want to build this. You think a retired person who that's suitable for, Mr. Perry, I know you're looking for a place, okay? Or a single person is going to want to live with that in their front yard with a PA system and concession stands and
Okay,
spectator stands?
all right, sum it up. Sum up what you're going to say.
I'm going to sum it up. I hope you people do the ethical thing here, because right now it looks pretty grim.
Thank you for all your, sir. I appreciate your concern.
Michael Smith, 102 Trotters. I'll be very, very brief. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I haven't heard anybody that's trying to scuttle this project. It appears as if the concern from those of us sitting on this side of the gavel is that the dialogue with the school district, both from Meadowbrook's perspective and Pickering Glen's perspective, has not sufficiently progressed. You only just got Mr. Brown's letter today, because we only found out about the agenda item on Friday. Mr. Brown found out on Saturday. Mr. Sienna said in an email that he wasn't even aware until late that it was going to be on the agenda. And we all know what happens, Ms. Cohen, when we assume things. So we acted as quickly as we could and had Mr. Brown submit the letter. But what's clear to us, your constituents, is that the discussions haven't progressed enough so that we feel as if our concerns have been addressed by the school district, and they don't appear to have been fully reviewed by you. As you said, Mr. Perry, you like the opportunity to review things. Notwithstanding Mr. Brennan's comment, it's certainly within the discretion of this entity to postpone the preliminary plan approval by a cycle or so that we can work and continue the dialogue both with Meadowbrook and the school district and Pickering Glen and the school district. Because no one's trying to scuttle the plan here. And it's not a question, Ms. Cohen, about whether it's going to get done. It's a question about whether it's going to get done right, with full and adequate consideration of all of our issues and in a measured kind of way. And from those of us sitting on this side, it doesn't appear as if that's the way this is going. The other concern that I have that Mr. Brown touched on is the maintenance of the trail. The reason why things have changed is that the design of this school, these schools, is to invite, is to encourage, to attract additional foot traffic, both from west to east and north to south and west to east going down to the YMCA because of this project, through nothing that Pickering Glen has done. And as a result, there's going to be increased maintenance, and there, of course, is going to be increased liability potential. And that's what makes this different than what the status quo is now with Pickering Glen having the maintenance obligation.
I'd like to address his concern.
I'll be brief. The other concern that I have, which is more from a macro perspective, and it may not be sufficient for this, but I'm happy to talk about it at the public participation segment in a few minutes, but you know, as a concession to the shortness of life, I'll raise it now. I haven't heard any discussion by anybody except I think it was Mr. Hanforth during a prior meeting as to, is it the township's opinion and conclusion that the police force and the fire force is sufficient to handle the number of children at these facilities that are being expected to occupy the buildings given our current force, both police and fire. And I know it's been raised, and I know there was reference made to talking to the chief of police and the head of the fire department, but as a resident of Pickering Glen with young children, I'd like to know that that's the township's conclusion. I think the school district has already concluded that in their opinion, the fire force and the police force is sufficient, but I have not heard yet definitively from the township, other than Mr. Hanforth raising the issue, that that has been the township's concern. So just to sum up, it sounds as if we're on our way. We've had a productive dialogue, albeit incomplete, with the school district. It sounds like Meadowbrook is in the same boat. But from our perspective, we want full and adequate consideration. We're not trying to blow up the deal. We just want our issues to be properly addressed. And it appears right now that it's a bit premature. Thank you.
I'd just like to address the concern with regard to the trail. You may not be aware that before any of us were on the board, when Pickering Glen was first constructed, it was an early adaptation of a permeable material for the homeowners' trail.
Yeah.
It did not function well.
It was a debacle.
Guess who paid for this to be corrected? For the the homeowners. We, the township, all of us paid for the mistakes of the past in a very responsible way.
I'm asking you to continue that, because
Okay.
this trail,
And
which
so
is
I don't
connected,
want to,
should
I
really
want
be the
to
responsibility
keep
of the
bringing up
township.
a maintenance issue as if this trail is quite old is not in fact a viable concern, because it's brand new. It's what, 2 years old, John? In any case,
I think you missed
the
my
point that
Mr.
I'm
Kelly.
saying is this, that I would like to respect, there's been a lot of vitriol against the school district expressed here, and to a certain extent, vitriol against us. Nobody is saying or doing anything that has been done or agreed to beyond anything. We judge things objectively. We look at the school district as responsible elected officials of the board. They are responsible to all of us as a community, as we are responsible to all of the township. So I would respectfully ask that you all, despite what your concerns may be, understand that we as supervisors need to look at what's best for the entire township. That's all.
Yeah, I appreciate the civics lesson. I'm aware of how it works. Certainly,
Just a minute.
none
Just
of
a
my
minute.
comments were intended to be vitriolic toward the township or towards the school district. I certainly did not intend to come off that way. In terms of the maintenance of the trail, I'm well aware of how the trail was constructed and the problem, the debacle that was. My perspective is going forward. The difference now is now you're building an early learning center in an elementary school with the express specific intended purpose to attract and encourage foot traffic. With that additional foot traffic of children, you're talking about increased maintenance and you're talking about increased liability, which we, Pickering Glen, are now being asked to assume through no conduct of our own. That's the difference from what it was before. But if my comments were taken by you to be vitriolic or offensive, or by the school district to be offensive, that was not my intent whatsoever. What's clear to all of us on this side is that additional time needs to be taken so these issues can be considered, and it doesn't appear as if there has been.
Okay, and what I'm saying to you is that with regard to the trail,
Just a minute.
that's a discussion for down the road. It's possible that partnerships could be formed, but that has nothing to do with their preliminary conditional plan.
Okay.
They're separate issues,
All right.
that's all.
Well, I
Martha?
was wondering if I could just make a suggestion, because I happen to agree that I think that we need to review everything that we got from the people from on Meadowbrook Lane. I think all the issues that have been brought up by Mr. Brown, sorry, I almost forgot your name there again, I apologize. And I really, and I know that Dr. Fagley and Mr. Bauer are not going to be real happy with what I have to say. If we push this off a month, I'm not really sure that it's going to hurt you guys with when you want to open the school.
Hang on,
okay?
I do.
By a month, I'm not really sure that it's really going to hurt that. I think what we
I do.
can do.
I do too.
I think what we can do.
Do you know what,
is
you know how long it
can
takes to
approve-
get out a request for a quote and such?
But we can
And
approve.
get
But we can
get a
approve the
building
waivers.
started?
We
Do you
can
know
approve-
anything about building?
We can approve these waivers. We can approve the waivers
Yeah.
so that they can get started on their RFP.
No, you don't.
We'd like to hear
We can at least approve the waivers so that they can get started on their RFP. I'm not saying that, we need to put this off for months. I think we do have an opportunity to review all of these things to make sure
We've been
that everything's-
reviewing it for 4 or 5 months now.
Exactly.
The
But
school
these things that
district
we
and
just
all the
received-
people
but
who have
the
been
things that-
concerned have been coming to the historic meeting, the EAC meeting, the open space meeting,
All
the
of the
planning
above.
meeting. What more do you want?
All
Well,
of the
let
above.
me ask you, how much time would you lose if we asked for another month on this? See, and I want you to be very honest with me.
No, as I referenced before, you lose a month here,
Yeah,
and usually that's not a big deal.
okay.
But if you have a start date of the beginning of the
2017.
school year, now you push it, you move that month back to the beginning of that school year, now you're into that school year, so you.
So your
you don't
schedule
have
is
it
that
ready.
tight?
It's that tight.
Really?
If school
That's
board
right.
members here who can tell you that.
I want to
we
make
have
a motion.
superintendents, We have the director of
Hang on, please.
Okay.
You'll get your chance to speak, just a minute. Sir, the gentleman that just stood up, no, not you. You've got to understand, you asked a question about police and fire. Chief Fetterman can also talk about it, but they're in different, whether they're in Phoenixville Borough, their police and their fire department, and that's for their high school and their middle school. Schuylkill School and the Learning Center is in Schuylkill Township. It'll be taking care of our police department and our fire department, just to let you know what's
That's
going
why I
on.
raised the question.
With
Is it this-
mutual aid.
Right, is it this township's conclusion that the existing police and fire forces in Schuylkill Township are sufficient to ensure the safety and welfare of the children that are going to be occupied?
Yes.
Yes.
I just want to let you know that, so you
Thank you.
feel safe.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, now, is there anybody,
I was going to say, I mean, to Ms. Majewski, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your list.
It's okay. Everybody does.
To her point, I mean, you know, with all due respect to council, there's already been an amended plan filed. September 17th is the day that's the target date. Certainly, there are contingencies in the workflow timeline that are built in for issues such as weather and whatnot. We're not looking to kick the can completely down the road. We're looking for additional time to continue the already fruitful. You start shaking your head, Ms. Cohen, before I finish. If you could give me the courtesy of not doing that. All we're asking is that there be additional consideration given to the dialogue that's already started between Pickering Glen and the school district and the Metters in the school district. Thank you.
agreed. Now, ma'am, you had something to say, didn't you?
Yeah.
Come on up. I thought you did, but I wasn't sure.
Thank you, yes. My name is Tessa Caley. I don't live on Meadowbrook or in Pickering Glen, but I really feel for these people, and that's why I'm here.
Where do you live, ma'am?
I live on Veronica Lane.
Where?
Veronica Lane. So, Tessa, T-E-S-S-A, Kelly, K-A-H-L-E-Y. So, you probably kind of got the impression that a lot of people here feel like they haven't been heard. And we've been arguing back and forth, yes we have, no we haven't, yes we have, no we haven't. But obviously there's been many concerns that have not been addressed. And we come here because this is a place where you're supposed to help us out when we have concerns, and I believe it's called public participation. I think it goes beyond ordinances. It's not just agreeing whether or not the ordinance is met. I think it goes beyond that, because we're the stakeholders. We're the taxpayers, we're the people being affected. Basically, public participation holds that those who are affected by a decision have a right to be involved in the decision-making process. We don't feel like we've really had a lot of involvement in this process. You might disagree, but there's a lot of things that have not been addressed yet. Public participation implies that the public's contribution will influence the decision. We don't feel like any of that has been happening. We're truly not trying to be difficult. Is something funny?
No.
Okay. We're not trying to be difficult. We're just mainly middle-class residents who independently pay our taxes and are trying to protect our quality of life. And I think you'd all do the same in the same circumstance. Ms. Cohen, you had mentioned earlier about the lovely area you live in and the nice walking path. This is a very high-density area as it is. And to add all of these things on top of it makes it even worse. That would decrease your quality of life and possibly your home value.
Excuse me, I didn't understand what you were saying.
About which part?
The last phrase.
Quality of life.
Yeah, quality of life.
And home value.
Home value, you didn't understand that part?
Yes. Having schools nearby is a positive thing. Having recreation nearby is a positive
You didn't
thing.
hear what I said. Okay, so the density, there's a lot of things squished into one area, a lot of traffic in this one area. And we're going to add to that now.
And you know what, thanks to the school district, I wanted to answer you in a positive way. Thanks to the school district, we might get PennDOT to do something that we've all been expressing very great disappointment about for years and years.
Right, but now we're gonna have to pay for it. Instead, if it was done without this being part of the deal, then it would be PennDOT that would be paying for all of this. No, that's not true.
Okay, is there anything else?
Yes, there is.
Go ahead.
So, oh, and the other point, obviously, is all this is happening so close to homeowners' homes, like very close to their homes, who've lived here for a long time, and like I said, have been very good members of the society. So I too respectfully request that you not act hasty in any way, and kindly set aside the appropriate time to give the issues that affects many stakeholders the thoughtfulness it deserves. And if there's any way possible, since we're in such a hurry for school, and I understand that, can we not have a resolution on the whole deal? Can a preliminary plan be split? Can we deal with the school now and maybe these other issues, the field traffic, all that stuff, separately? At least consider that. Please give it the time it deserves. It's affecting a lot of people, and that's why we're here, and that's what we depend on you for. Now I'm done, thanks.
Thank you very much. All right. Do you have anything you want to say?
John Moraz, once again.
Him and then.
I appreciate everybody listening to us. Everybody says they gave us opportunities to meet with them. You've heard it. They mentioned 59 different meetings. We know that these plans were developed many, many, many months before this became public. The playing fields, we have a note here that was last year, May of 2013, they started this approval process or review. So we know these things have been done way before it was made public. The timeline, we were at the November Planning Commission.
Wait a minute. May of 2013 or 2014?
Summer of 2013, right here, is
Okay.
when they started the playing field, and they had groups of meetings, which none of the neighbors were involved with. So these plans were ongoing.
Well, I don't think the township was involved either.
You're exactly right, we were not.
Because I didn't see any of this until.
I'm not saying the township was involved, but somebody.
To the planning commission in August.
So these plans were developed
Okay.
way before we were made public of this. November Planning Commission was the planning commission where the traffic study was being presented. At that time, we were not able to speak about anything but the traffic. So when we talk about the 90-day rule here, I'm not sure where they're getting this from. That was presented to the planning commission in September. You know, they didn't say that. So the first meeting that we had any input other than traffic in November was the December meeting. And that's when we had our engineer talk about these issues. You know, once again, it's coming down to the playing fields. It's what you want to put into. If you want to make this into a park, make it into a park. But don't bring both public parks, public parks with playing fields. Maybe we need it on the west side or the east side of the township. Maybe we should have it down by Valley Forge Park area. There has to be some open space down there. Maybe we should turn the Phoenixville Country Club into having playing fields. Maybe that works, Mr. Morrison. You're taking one golf course, putting a 1,200 student school smack dab in the middle of the township. Yes, none of you live in that area. You don't know the traffic. You go by it, but it's not like Valley Forge Mountain or any of the other roads that you live in. We heard about Pauling Road. Think about Pot House and what you mean to the house value. Jim, why do you keep saying or thinking about this is going to be great for the township? I've heard that. Even with the last meeting we attended at the Planning Commission, we asked you privately, well, at the meeting, if you think anything can be changed, and that you said no. You said that, Jim. You said that. And I can remember at a school board meeting when this whole thing started being discussed, one of 3 board members told me in private, once we get this rezoned, we can build whatever we want. So yes, Barbara, that was said to me. So you weren't there, I was there, and one of these 3 board members were there. And they told me that once we get this rezoned, we can build whatever we want. So what Bernie said here, this is a really sad issue because We spent a lot of money privately for an engineer study, thinking that we would have some credibility. But it's not coming down to that. We're trying to compromise. Our house values. Barbara, if you want to buy my house today, I'll transfer it with you. If you think the house value where we live is going to increase in value because we're going to have 6 playing fields, maybe it would be good for the school, just like everybody on Pot House Road. But with 6 playing fields, with 24/7, you know, if they have lights eventually, but you're going to have weekend traffic. And who's going to pay for the police department when they have lots of games there? There's going to be additional police presence needed. You have 6 playing fields, you're going to have a lot of people there. You have 1,000 bleachers, possibly, based upon the zoning.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, the school district, and you sum it up?
I'd be glad to. First, I want to address the rezoning. The school district could have proceeded ahead under the way it was zoned at that time. The R2 allows for a school to go through, so that rezoning did not affect the ability of the school district to place the school here or the number of fields there. The county also approved the rezoning, so this was not simply a school district or a township issue, but the county reviewed it and that planning commission approved it. As regards to whether there are open issues, I want to address that because I think that's a fair question and a number have raised that. What I'd suggest to you there aren't because of the number of meetings that have taken place, the number of times that this plan has been vetted, not only by your own engineer, who's an independent engineer, but rather also by the Meadowbrook Lane residents, hiring their own separate engineer, raising 52 separate issues, and the school district addressing each of them. And the key I suggest for this board, and I think your solicitor stated this previously, is whether the plan complies with the ordinances. And there is nothing in that MET's review letter, the Meadowbrook Lane engineer's review letter, that said, hey, this aspect of the plan doesn't comply with the ordinance. So we've addressed each aspect of those issues that were raised. There were a couple issues raised by council for the folks across the street, Pickering Glen. Just want to hit them very quickly. Traffic, they're worried about the cut through the traffic. They're township roads. It's a township issue and the township can install stop signs if it wants to. Now, will people really be cut through there only to come back to that light that they're supposed to be trying to avoid?
Yes, they
Don't
do.
know,
They
don't
do.
know if
They
it
will.
happens.
They do now.
If
They already
they do
do.
now, then we're not causing that, but you can always come to the township and ask for stop signs. That should deter them. Secondly,
Finish it up.
Secondly is the stormwater management issue. And I'll ask the district's engineer to address that issue that was raised by the attorney as to whether there would be some excess water when we rebuild Pot House Road there on the side of Pickering Glen. There's an extra inlet that has been installed.
Well, first off, all of the additional flow from the widening is captured and actually conveyed across Pot House Road to a detention basin on the school site. It meets the ordinance requirements. It actually exceeds the ordinance requirements in terms of the Act 167 with reductions for stormwater rate. At the particular location, we acknowledge there could be an existing drainage issue, and that was brought up at the Trotter Drive intersection. What we tried to do with the contouring at that location was actually direct the flow to an inlet so that it would better capture the flow there. And we think it's been acknowledged that that would happen, and we've actually also recently discussed adding an additional inlet to further improve the situation there that is an existing potential issue.
So the plans comply, the township engineer has reviewed and given his approval to that, and there are additional things that can occur.
On that point, Andy, Meadowbrook Lane, can you address the woman's comment, Donna's comment about the fields being higher by 3 feet or so than Meadowbrook Lane, and then
Absolutely, we've
from a stormwater standpoint?
again, and there's mention of improvements via stormwater management, and certainly the design does in fact reduce the release of all the storms from the 1-year storm throughout the 100-year storm. At Meadowbrook Lane, the design captures and conveys all the flow from the Meadowbrook site, from the cemetery, and so forth, The design was specifically done so that if there was any clogging due to leaves or so forth from the trees, that there'd be an overland flow pathway to make sure there'd be no flooding on Meadowbrook Lane whatsoever. So that would, and that condition would only occur if every inlet were clogged completely. We designed it so that there, in that case, there would still be no flooding. So I think that may just be, that needs to be looked into more by, Met's engineering to understand.
So,
the
so you
condition.
designed it so that you would handle all the stormwater that
That's right.
flows now, and.
It's acknowledged that the field is higher at the location where than the golf course is right now in certain instances, but we do collect and convey.
You're coming back on your words because you said there was not gonna be any
Right.
change.
That there's not gonna be any stormwater issue.
No, that's not what I said, sir.
That's not what it says.
You previously said at the planning commission meeting in response to, Jeff Word, that there was gonna be no change in grade.
Right.
And the current grade right now is from Meadowbrook Lane is the high side, and the property goes down.
Across the majority of the Meadowbrook Lane, there is no change in grade. There is a high point.
On the fields, you're now
There's a
saying.
high point.
And there's
that-
3 fields along there, so there will be high points all along Meadowbrook Lane because there are 3 fields, right?
There's one particular high point on Meadowbrook Lane that we designed in so that the flow would be directed to the inlets that we placed along Meadowbrook Lane. And that high point,
The low point on Meadowbrook Lane, why is there no outlet there?
there is.
Or there will be.
We've designed proposed inlets, one of which being at the low point, and
That
all
was
of
not-
that flow is.
So what you're
directed
saying
to
is
the
it
east.
doesn't exist now, but it will when
That's
it's
correct. Right
constructed,
now,
okay.
the flow goes
Okay.
across Meadowbrook Lane, it will continue to flow across Meadowbrook Lane.
Okay.
It'll be captured by the inlets that we designed along Meadowbrook Lane.
Okay.
So there'll actually be improvements.
That's
If
true.
they were to be clogged, there's still an overland flow pathway east.
Onto the
Well, it's
school
gonna
district
try to
property.
go up 3, 4 feet
No,
though.
there's a low point.
On the
that-
property.
Let's try to sum it up as much as possible. This-
Meet that low point, flow to the east, and without causing any encroachment onto Meadowbrook Lane corridor.
So I think we hit that as regards
Okay.
buffering and landscaping. We comply with the ordinance now. Your township engineer says so. If there's going to be additional landscaping, great. That discussion will take place as to whether there's additional landscaping outside the right of way on the south side of Pot House. So that's going to be between private parties. That's outside the purview of land development. You don't have an ordinance that says you have to plant on somebody else's property. So that's not for this decision that's before you tonight. As regards to walking trail maintenance, I think the supervisors have addressed that. It's not a land development issue. Easements was the 5th item that he raised. That's a PennDOT issue. We'll have to work through PennDOT for that, and that is certainly one of the conditions. It's always imposed in this situation. You get approvals from PennDOT for what you're gonna do on a state road. So what we've done is address all these issues. I ask that the board act tonight so the school district can move ahead with this project. Thank you.
Okay, Frank.
Just got to keep it short.
Thank you, Mr. Curry, for hearing me one last time. Martha, I really like your idea of breaking this out. We certainly don't want to hold up the children from your school. That has never been our issue. All right, just so you all understand that. We don't see why construction on the school can't roll ahead as planned.
That's what I
Our
think
issue
too.
is with the steamrolling of the fields. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. Mr.
Okay.
Keller, only about this,
Go ahead.
Come on.
I just want to respond briefly to.
he put his
He's
hand up
already
first. You're not
spoken,
running the meeting.
Martha.
You're not running the meeting. I am.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Why does he have it right?
Just 2 minutes.
This only can concern
2 minutes.
what we're talking about.
Okay, yes. You heard Barbara Cohen say how responsible the school district is. Well, that's very untrue because a few years ago they bought contaminated land. Now they take over the golf course through
It's already
eminent
been-
domain. Absolutely ridiculous decision because now you're going to put 1,200 people into a congested area. And let me finish. I talked to the superintendent twice. I've been down here to these meetings and I asked him, What are you gonna do if there's a true emergency at peak hours? How are you gonna get emergency vehicles down to that area? Tell me.
It's already been taken care of.
Oh, it's been taken, what, are you gonna put a helicopter pad down there?
No.
That's the only way you're gonna get down. There's no shoulders on the,
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Mr. Keller.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
concerned
His
about,
2 minutes
I'm
are up,
concerned
Brett.
about the students and the residents of that area, their safety.
Okay, thank you. Bill,
Yeah, Fred.
can we separate this to the idea of where the school district would be able to move forward with their buildings?
Well, I don't talk for them, but I don't know how they move forward without a plan. They have to
That's
do
what I
all
thought.
that.
If we can approve their waivers, wouldn't they still be able to put together an RFP? And then we can review all the other items and all
Well, I
that?
can't answer for you, you answer
I-
that question.
Check with the
Well-
board members that are here, the superintendent, no, they cannot move ahead with an RFP unless they have
Right.
preliminary plan approval. As regards to separating it, no, it's all one plan that's before you. So we actually-
Exactly, and it's been
And
reviewed,
as to-
comprehensively reviewed.
And then there's the expense issue, of course.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Well, you know what, I think Mr. Brown.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown, you-
Sorry, you're gonna hit me over the head with that, aren't
Do
you?
you have something else to say, sir?
It's pretty easy.
Pete,
I-
Pete.
30 seconds, I just want to.
Go ahead.
On Mr. Belwar's comment. What Mr. Smith said, we're not looking to derail this project. There are.
I understand that.
There are important issues of concern for the association, for the other residents. Nothing has been agreed to, nothing has been finalized. We've had good, fruitful, productive, candid discussions with the school district. But we want to make sure that that's captured somehow, so that the idea that we.
I can't agree with you more.
And
It's
we
true.
wanna
all
make sure
agree.
That's captured
Yeah.
in the context of approval, be it through condition, however that's handled. But again, we're not throwing, stones, we're not acting with vitriol, we're not looking to derail the project. It's all been very respectful in our conversations, so you understand what we're.
And I appreciate your
respect you
concern
too,
about the
and the
buildings,
motion I'm
too.
about
I
to
appreciate
make
you saying what you did.
Is so the process can move forward and the discussions as well.
I would, Mr. Brown, and I didn't remember your name this time, Mr. Brown, I would encourage you to continue speaking to the school district regarding your concerns. But as Mr. Belwar suggested, I think some of those concerns, although we've been made aware of them, I'm not sure that we can be a party to it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, if the district wishes to make deals and arrangements and satisfy.
That's up to them.
They're
That's
free
up
to
to
do
them.
it, and the
That's-
negotiations can continue. But the question before you is approval or.
That's
vote
correct.
of
Conditional.
the-
All right.
the plan.
Let me just say.
Oh,
one
come
thing.
on.
All right,
From
that-
the very beginning, I'm just gonna use the screening and the landscaping as an example, okay? From the very beginning, it was expressed to my client, we wanna be good neighbors, we wanna work collaboratively with you. We are willing to install enhanced screening, buffering, landscaping, et cetera, along the Pod House Road frontage. How do you incorporate that into the approval? You yourself said a short while ago that if it isn't on the plan, and if it isn't contained in the approval, then it doesn't exist. We have no reason whatsoever to dispute the fact that the district is not going to act in good faith with us. But we want that captured, we want those understandings and those ideas that those discussions that we've had, and those initial understandings to be contained somehow or reflected in the approval.
Well, I understand you want
Okay,
to do
Bill.
that, but the point is that the township has no legal business insisting on conditions that are not set forth in the text of the zoning ordinance or the saldo. So, it is not something they can legally do. Now, conditions are imposed all the time, and, in different cases, I understand that. And there are certain standard conditions that we would require. The most important one is that the development comply with the plan, and that all of the recommendations suggested by the engineer in his review letter be complied with. There are a number of conditions in that document that go arguably beyond what the township can strictly do in terms of the text of the zoning code and the saldo.
I'm not,
So-
I'm not arguing that point. What I'm saying is that it's not uncommon. In fact, it happens all the time, where a
Well-
developer is developing a property as a condition of approval. There is, again, I'm just using the screening and the landscape as an example, that there's additional buffering or something that provides for that additional screening.
Well, you're saying additional screening, that's beyond what the code requires, and if the, you know, if you deal with the district and they say tonight they're willing to do certain things, I guess we could mark it up, but it's ready to go. I mean,
I think that in
the
the
draft
letter-
is ready to go.
I think in the reply letter that we got from Mr. Sienna, he indicated that all of these items are ongoing discussions, that they are willing to, you know, address those issues.
All right, let's go. That's enough.
Just to follow up on that, wasn't that the same, Michael Barron, the same discussion we were having around the trail with the developer?
Yes.
Can you not, like, take a delay and potentially?
No.
That's what they do.
All right,
We
hold on.
really
Can
have
I
listened
make a sug-
and
yeah.
exhibited.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Well, here, one second, I mean.
Go ahead.
They really
really
only.
have.
Excuse me.
I'm
This,
talking to the floor.
this is our meeting, so, and I have a question for Bill. No, I'm sorry, this is our meeting. This is our meeting, and this is where we do our business. So I'm trying to help you guys out here, okay? Can we approve the conditional preliminary plan development this evening with the conditions that all these people's issues are met before the final approval?
No.
No, we can't.
They couldn't go out for an RFP if
big.
they did that.
Exactly.
Martha, the preliminary is effectively the final, you can't do that.
Okay.
No. I'd like to make a motion, Fred.
Hang on.
Am I allowed to continue or?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So the question then is, so if this is officially approved as presented tonight, and they're having concerns about the number of fields, if it's 4 to 2 or whatever,
That's
did you
a
continue
variance.
any ongoing discussions with the school district?
Yes, they will continue.
Can I-
It's conditional.
Barbara,
That's the
please.
key point.
You guys yell when other people jump on.
I'm not yelling.
I know, you're interrupting, but if they want to make a change and negotiate with the school district about 4 fields to 2 or whatever, and the plan is approved for 4 fields, is that officially the plan is done, correct?
Although, if the preliminary plan is approved for 4 fields, the idea then is there is a time period for cleanup work. A lot of the items that are part of the approval require certain additional work to be complete. And the final plan is then presented, but it has to be consistent with the preliminary plan, and to do a major redesign would not be appropriate unless the school district were to agree to it. And if they were to agree to it, they could come back with a revised plan. I have no idea how long that would take, but if they were to agree to it, it could be changed. However, once the preliminary plan is approved, the district, any developer, any applicant, any landowner has certain rights. And the rights flow from whatever's in the plan. As I said to Mr. Nolan, if it's on the plan, you have it. If it's not on the plan, you don't have it. That's what the law is.
So if they had submitted a plan for 2 fields, they own all the land, wanted to get approval for 2 fields, but in the future wanted to add the other 2.
They would have to come back to the board and do it.
Well, it's up to them, but if they presented a plan for 2 and it were approved, that would be the plan. If there was room there, if there was a place to do it, you know, anything can happen. They could come in with a new plan for further development. But, you know, it's up to them. We don't control, the township reacts. We don't design for people, we don't tell them what to plan, we don't do our own, we don't make anything, we review the plans that come in. So, if they were to come in for 2 fields, we'd review it. If it met the ordinances, you know, presumably it would be approved. But then, you know, whatever they did in the future is up to them. We don't do planning for any property.
No, that's fine, that's what I was asking, because obviously there's a ton of concern, and it sounds like majority of the concern is around the 2 additional fields closest to, I'm just throwing out, to the.
Well, you're talking about a major redraw of these plans, and you're not talking 1 month, you're talking 6 months to get, you know, the details down. You need new stormwater analysis, you need a full and complete review of all of the aspects of the plan. You can't just move some, you know, plans here to there and then expect it not to involve other consequences of development, such as stormwater is a primary one. So, look, I don't vote.
I'm just
All
asking
telling you
to-
what the law is, and that's what the law is. The plan is before them as it has been designed, and that's what we are.
I guess the reason for the question is exactly what people can do after this preliminary plan is approved.
That's
and
correct.
really what effort they can put in to get anything that they are concerned about really changed.
Well, we would expect everyone to act in good faith, and if there were promises before to do things, we'd expect them, presumably to go ahead with that, but it's not binding. We don't, the local government doesn't get into negotiations and promises between the developer and property owners. It's not our function.
Okay.
Well, I agree.
So what I'm saying is that the letter from Mr. Sienna to me earlier today seemed to indicate, in fact, it expressly stated that we're gonna continue to work on these issues. And I think he did make some commitments with respect to the landscaping and the buffer.
Well, I didn't see any commitments.
All right, is there any more comments from my colleagues?
I'd like to make a
Andy,
motion.
did you see the letter?
All right,
Susie has one more.
Can I just take 30 seconds? I live on 121 Travers Drive, and my name is Susie Hazelton. I just want to take 30 seconds to talk to you. I come to you as a mom. We live there. Relatively speaking, it's a very peaceful drive. It's nice because our kids, there's probably 100 kids in the neighborhood. I think that that's on the fair, maybe on the low side. And I'm really worried. It's like romper room. I'm really concerned what this new development to the roads, aside from the noise, the congestion, I'm truly concerned, and I really implore you to go home tonight and think about this. The cut through that some of the people will do when they're in a rush to get to work, they're late for a meeting, or they just want to get home, because they're more important than the people in front of them. And when they cut through, and there's a kid that's running across the street, maybe mine, if one of those kids gets hurt because of a cut through, I don't know if somebody who approves this would really be able to sleep at night. I'm worried about the ramifications of what that is going to do to my neighborhood. And to the 100 kids that are kids, they're not looking across the street, I guarantee you. My kids don't. And as much as I scream, these people that are going to cut through because of the light to try to avoid it or to get in front of 15 cars is really putting a lot of kids at risk. And it just takes one for this whole thing to fall apart. So please think of that tonight or in the future of how this possibly could be avoided. You can't put a police car at both entrances. I get that. But that's really going to be a severe liability on whoever approves this and something that you have to sleep with. Thank you.
We have
Thank you.
cut-throughs in our neighborhood too. I feel for you. I understand them.
Thank you.
Oh, come on now.
One last item, I'd like to offer as an exhibit my letter, which I sent to the board earlier today. And I'd also like to offer as an exhibit Mr. Sienna's response, which came after my letter. You can mark them, or I mark
Well,
them as.
Mrs. Brown, hold on, this is not a hearing where we
Yeah.
have markings.
Well-
They all have the letter.
So that
And I was also uncertain what you meant by entering your appearance in this. I mean, certainly.
As a party to the proceedings, my client is an association. They're not residents. I have residents here as well.
You're confusing me a little bit. And when you say proceedings, this is an application by the district for approval of a plan. There are no proceedings. I mean.
It's not a zoning hearing, I grant you. I just wanted to be clear
No,
for the
it's
record.
not.
that
If you wish to, they have it. If you wish to, make a request to be part of the record.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, how to respond to that, but the answer is I'll look it up, and if it becomes part, if there is a record, and the NPC requires that it become part of the record, then we'll put it in that way. But my understanding is they all have it, and they all have the response. We understand your request. They all have it. You made the request. And if there's a record that is to be part of, it will be included under the MPC. I just am not familiar with that process in terms of making a record in an application process.
Okay, that's fine. Again, I acknowledge it's not a zoning hearing.
Right.
Okay, it
There's
is,
no court reporter, there's
no,
no record.
obviously.
And you'll be in the minutes.
I understand that. It's still, it's a meeting, and I think it's reflected as a hearing in the MPC.
You're on camera, Mr. Brown, so you're.
It's okay.
All right, that's enough. Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to, the resolution for the Board of Supervisors of Schuylkill Township to grant conditional preliminary land development plan approval for a proposed early learning center owned by the Phoenixville Area School District.
Which is 2015-06.
Thank you. Need a second?
I'll second.
Just a comment, I'll make it quick. What I've heard tonight is some major issues, among which are stormwater, noise, lighting, and traffic. We have one of the strictest stormwater ordinances around. I believe John can attest to that. And one of the tenets of the stormwater ordinance is you can't dump water from one property onto another property without incurring some consequence. Secondly, lighting. We have a very strict lighting ordinance. Does that mean it can't be improved? Maybe it can. All right. So, but one of the things that maybe got lost in this discussion is the engineering commitment to a full cutoff lighting. To me, that means that the lights have got blinders on, all right? They don't go sideways. They aim down. They don't go up. So, you know, it remains to be seen the exact configuration, but it's promising. Noise, we have a nuisance ordinance, but we don't have a noise ordinance. Mr. Perry brought up in the beginning of the meeting, it reminded me that I had committed to looking into a noise ordinance, and I will do that. I view a noise ordinance like a stop sign ordinance, okay? You pass it, it applies to everybody immediately, all right? Just like a stop sign. You can't not stop at a stop sign. So I just, want to make those comments, and so there is room for an improvement here. I'll make it my business to try to make it happen.
All right, we've had a motion, we've had a second. Any more discussion?
Just, Mr. Johnson, I wanted, many of us were trying to save the original Schuylkill Elementary School several years ago, and it could not be saved as an historic building. And so what I did was attend a very advanced design conference for LED, or LEED, I meant to say. Christmas time and after the holiday, you say, wow, I have this whole packet of materials for sustainable and recycled materials that we had hoped to get at cost from these manufacturers for the Schuylkill School if the school board at that time had decided to save it. So I would like, on the basis, as you proceed, to adopt this folder and take a good look at it.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, hang on for a minute. Kevin's got something to say.
I have a couple things. I've been very quiet, and I've been doing a lot of listening and writing down a lot of notes. Halfway there, but I was not asleep. One of my concerns, are the fields in their plan currently have lighting on it now?
No.
Okay. Would they have to come back to us if they want to put lighting on the field?
Yes.
Okay. Now the PA systems, is every single field going to have a PA system on it, or are there going to be certain fields that have PA systems on it? Or you don't know yet?
No.
Can we limit that?
Yeah, they would have to come back for a variance and then get the approval from the township.
So right now, we don't have any lights on the fields, no PA systems on the field.
If I may.
Yes.
Doctor, you did say at the last meeting that it was most likely there will be a speaker system at every field. Now, one of them is a practice field, so I would assume they're not going to put a speaker at one of the practice field. But you did indicate that there would be a speaker system at every, what's that?
We do not have speakers.
And what I'm saying is, I would assume you wouldn't put one in that, but you did say that you would put a speaker system, most likely, at every field. So if we're talking 6 fields,
No.
you're talking about 5 speaker systems.
I don't recall saying that. What
I
said-
do recall you saying
What I
that.
thought I had said.
You might have, okay.
Is that I did not want to limit where we would be putting the speaker systems at that time.
You did say that, and you followed up by saying, most likely, we will put them at the fields. Now, listen, we are not naive here, right? You know that if you're gonna be leasing these fields out, you're gonna have a speaker system at every one of these fields that are planted fields, right? So, please, we're not stupid over here, okay?
So right now, they're not in the plan, so they would have to come back for a variance, correct?
That's correct.
They can't add them after the fact.
I'm sure about the lighting, they'll have to come back. I don't know whether they're gonna have to come back for,
I would say they did,
I'm not sure if they do.
Let's find out legally.
because they would have to be approved by Gilmore, and he would have to come back from them, and then we would have to vote on it
Nothing identified
separately.
in the plan about a PA system.
But
All right.
legally, must they come back? That's a.
No, there
Yes.
isn't, but there's nothing on.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
that's
I
my
agree.
answer. That's my question.
Couldn't agree. Okay,
So they have to come back to
Yeah.
us
Yes.
for sound system.
Well, there's nothing
Can we get a
specified
clear
in
answer on
stone.
that, please?
Well, we're-
It's the building plan, does it not? Lighting.
okay, let's carry on. Come on, we got to move on.
Mr. Perry, if you may, can we get a clear answer on that speaker system?
Do they have to, I mean, I'm confused now. So they don't, or they do have to
There's
come?
nothing in the saldo about speaker systems.
I think they do.
So,
He's saying there's nothing in saldo.
So that, if they were to put one in, if it were to be a nuisance, there'd be an objection after it was in, but I can't commit in terms of the law that they have to come back or don't have to come back. I mean, my sense is that they may be allowed to do it.
My sense is they would have to come in to the township.
Can we get something in writing that would say that they would need to come back at least for the speaker systems?
As a condition?
As a condition?
I mean,
As a condition, yeah.
Good. For sound system? We know they have to come back for lighting, for sound system.
No, I would say no.
Go ahead.
Can we
I would
put
say
it?
no.
No, that they can?
I
They
would
don't
say
have to.
that They don't have to come back.
Can we put it as condition to have them, if they want to do sound
Well,
system?
What standards would be applied then? We're gonna have decibels, and we're gonna have,
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not in it.
I'm for clarity, I just don't know.
So am I.
They come
Yeah.
back to us and ask for a speaker system, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What standards will you apply to the application? There are none. So,
Would it be a speaker system? Would that not be the criteria?
what does that mean? It doesn't, how loud? I mean, so.
It's a speaker system or no speaker system, and it's binary. We're not talking about decibels.
I don't see how that can be imposed as a condition if it's not in the ordinance.
Well, lighting is apparently.
But we
There's a
have a
separate
lighting
lighting
ordinance.
Okay.
We don't have a noise ordinance, we have a nuisance ordinance.
Yes.
I think that's gonna be the big problem, right?
But we have
Once-
dueling legal senses here. So Mr. Brennan says his sense is that they don't have to come back. And Mr. Perry
I
says
think they
his
do.
sense is that they do.
Yeah.
If you're
they
gonna
do.
put up a huge
Well,
lot.
my question is, whose sense wins, Jim? Whose sense wins?
I'm pretty sure about this one, and this is to you, Bill and John. If you're gonna put up a structure that's 30 feet tall or 35 feet tall, that has a battery of lights on it, I think you need a building permit, do you not?
Well, it depends.
That's for lights, but,
No, I wanna deal with that issue.
but for the sound system.
I said
Yeah,
previously, I'd look
I know,
into
I
a
know.
noise ordinance.
No, but do we have to come back for a permit to put a sound system in?
It depends on how the noise ordinance reads.
Okay.
Right, and how it would be installed if you're gonna have a big,
Well, we don't have a noise ordinance.
All right, what else, what other questions do you have? All right, what other questions do you have?
And the last thing is for Mr. Sartor, and I know PennDOT has this, okay?
Right.
It's the light at Trotter's Lane, if they wanna put it in. Isn't the traffic, isn't it too close to 29 and Pot House? Where, because I'm going back and I'm thinking of our conversation here at 23, and that one where the Polar development wants to come out and they wanted to put a light there, and PennDOT said you can't do it. It's too close, that it's too close to the light. Now,
We got a precedent right out here. We got a light right here at Valley Park and White Horse. We got another one right across the bridge.
well,
I think,
my
Kevin,
only concern is you got one at White Horse.
it has to
and
do
you
with the
got one
traffic
at Star
count.
Street, and then you got
Yeah, it
one
does.
down at Paulings
In other
Road.
words, PennDOT allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
But we don't have anything to do with that.
Well, we don't.
White
But
Horse and
the question is, they
23
wanna put it in.
is
What's the
longer
likelihood of
than the
PennDOT approving
distance
that?
from
But he doesn't know.
Lighthouse Road and 29 to where they want to put the light. It's longer, and that was not approved.
That's where we have to pressure our state legislators and pressure PennDOT to get the proper safety features that we need on our roadways and work together on that.
And,
One question, I mean, you say it's a conditional approval, what are the conditions? I haven't heard any conditions yet.
It's not stated in the,
I got it, that's what I'm asking.
okay.
All right, I can run down the.
There are 15
16.
I'll
more.
run down
16. Would you like me to read them?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry for the meeting, but
So I'll talk fast, Ray. Applicants shall comply with all development terms, conditions, directives, and notes that are shown on the plan.
Number one.
That's number one. Number two, applicant shall satisfy all outstanding items outlined in the Township Engineer's Review Letter dated December 12, 2014. The review letter attached hereto as Exhibit A and made a part thereof. Any previous review letters incorporated by reference therein and revise the plan accordingly. 3, applicant presented a supplemental landscape plan dated December 3rd, 2014. As a condition of this approval, applicant shall make supplemental landscape plan a part of his overall plan and shall install the planning set forth in the supplemental landscape. Number 4, if in the future the applicant decides it wants to install lights for the field, the applicant must first comply with all applicable laws regarding the installation of said lights. 5, applicant shall satisfy all requirements of the Valley Forge Sewer Authority in connection with the disposition of public sewage from the property. 6, applicant shall obtain all necessary outside agency permits, including any necessary approvals from PA DEP, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, Chester County Conservation District, any other applicable agencies for approval and construction of the development subject to review and notice to the township of the same. Number 7, applicants shall comply with all directives of the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation with respect to the state highway road improvements necessary for approval and construction of the development and the issuance of a highway occupancy permit. In connection therewith, the applicant shall undertake all actions, prepare all agreements, deeds of dedication, and documentation necessary to provide PennDOT with the right-of-ways for such improvements. 8, applicant shall obtain written approval evidencing the applicant's ability to connect to public sewer and water system. 9, applicant shall pay sewer tapping fees as required by the sewer authority. Tapping fee resolution, which are in effect, I think that's it, should be an S. Tapping fee resolutions, which are in effect at the time of payment, Municipality Authorities Act, number 5607D parentheses and 24 in parentheses. 10, applicant shall submit a certified estimate of the cost improvements for approval of the township engineer at the time of the final land development plan submission, and a proper escrow shall be accordingly arranged. 11, applicant shall submit all required easements satisfactory to the township solicitor and the legal description satisfactory to the township engineer. 12, applicant shall submit final land development plan satisfactory to the township and the township engineer pursuant to the provisions of SALDO. 13, the final land development plan shall comply with all applicable provisions of the SALDO and zoning ordinance. 14, before the final land development plans are signed or recorded, the applicant shall execute a developer's agreement, an escrow agreement, stormwater management agreement, sewer service agreement, and a post-financial security, all in form, substance, and amount satisfactory to the township solicitor pursuant to the provisions of municipal planning code and SALDO. 15, applicant shall pay all outstanding fees applicable for engineering and legal services pursuant to section 503, 510 with the G in parentheses of the Pennsylvania Municipal Planning Code. And finally, last but not least, 16, applicant shall be required to obtain a highway occupancy permit for and any other permits and approvals necessary for work along any state roads affected by this land development.
Okay, we've had the
Did you
lights
time
is
me?
number 4.
Yeah, could I do that one more time?
Yeah, the lights, if in the future the applicant decides it wants to install lights for the fields, the applicant must first comply with all applicable laws regarding installation of said lights.
Why can't that provision
Say with the nose,
Yes,
can we put that as number 17?
yes.
Well, there's no,
Well, there's no ordinance.
There's no ordinance to go
Is there a
along with
light
it.
ordinance?
there is.
Yeah.
There's a light on.
Yes,
So the lighting's already in there.
we have a lighting, that's
The
part of
lighting
Saldo.
is in there already.
Yeah.
It's
That's
already in
another
there.
reason why this is being.
All right, we've had,
And/or future noise or light
all right, we've had an hour and a half or so of discussion. We've had the motion, we have a second.
I'm sorry, but, I'm very sorry, but there's no condition for what PennDOT approves for the road?
Yes, it is.
Yes, there is.
It's in there.
It's in there.
Absolutely. They can't proceed without PennDOT, Sewer Authority,
No, but what,
and all engineering type approvals from the state and the county.
but what approval of what? So they talked about putting 3 lanes in the entire way.
The final plan. We're only at the beginning of the process by doing this evening.
Oh, I was told the final plan is pretty much
All
This
right,
is
good.
not the final plan.
And as far as PennDOT approvals, we don't have
We
any
don't
say in
control
that.
it.
No, but see, they were talking about doing a 3 lane and if
That's a
Well,
PennDOT.
the meetings get
issue.
But PennDOT said that they didn't have to do that, that was their preference. It wasn't something that needed to be done. And I had asked you if you would please ask them if we could not
I read
have
that.
3 lanes the entire way, and you said you would. And I haven't heard anything back about that. Or 3 lanes the entire way, just have our attorney.
Sir,
So, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, just to get clarification from the speaker system, that's gonna be included, and the plan would be, there's no conditions, obviously, because there's no ordinance that would address that. How would the nuisance ordinance, relate to that? I mean, can we talk a little bit about?
because that'll become part of the Saldo, part of our ordinances.
Then,
No, Fred, that's not right.
to come up with something to at least help us on our end.
Yeah.
It's not fair. Just move forward and then come up with an ordinance.
Well, we're gonna move forward.
I mean, here's,
Bill has something to add.
We have a noise ordinance later to apply, we don't have one now.
Right,
So that if the project goes ahead and they put a system in and it's too noisy, then the police will come out and make a judgment about whether it's a nuisance.
that's correct.
The police are not gonna do anything against the school district, I mean, you know that, I know that. I mean,
All right, we're getting out of order. If somebody has something to say, they can come up to the microphone and talk and make their point. If not, we're going to go ahead and vote on the issue. Anybody else? All right, we have the motion, we have the second. Any more discussion from the board? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
nah.
Okay. Motion passed.
Mr. Chairman, just so the record is clear, the waivers appear to be incorporated within what you just voted on, but,
I understand, we voted on the resolution.
all right, so the waivers are included.
Correct. Why did you, you're a bullshitter. Yeah, you are.
I'm not. You know, my only concern is,
Yes, I know you
You
did.
don't want your kids to go to school? You don't want the school district to have
My kids are out of
Well, you're not getting one, because
Well,
they
that's
don't want
Well,
you to have.
my son's in 5th grade at Schuylkill Elementary. That school's not done. My concern
No.
is,
But you don't want the.
I'm paying, I'm gonna, my
You
son's
don't
telling
want-
my
I
son,
know
I'm
that
telling my son.
outside.
20,000 people.
They're friends of
that go
mine
to our
outside.
schools to go to school?
I'm not
Yeah,
talking,
but
I'm not
they have-
telling you.
they
They
have
don't
a-
want, they don't want you
Meadowbrook
knocking on their
12 people?
door.
No, I don't.
That's bullshit.
Well, they don't want, they don't
You
want
fight
you
for
to.
your
So
home
I'm not telling you.
association,
But I'll tell you what,
but you don't fight,
Mary
you fight for
is
this bullshit.
I'm not giving you Mary.
Now, the question is, jamming all these fields in there. Worried about the school. The school needs to get done, but we need the school.
That's why we need to get it going.
But they,
No, I get that.
and I
I'm asking
understand.
not to.
Colleagues, we haven't adjourned the meeting yet.
We gotta go to.
We haven't adjourned the meeting yet.
Let you go.
All right, if somebody make a motion to adjourn the meeting, we will not have an executive session tonight.
We need an exec session.
Oh, okay. Oh, excuse me. We want to go over the LiDAR?
Yeah, well, that's part of the,
That's correct.
part of the agenda.
Anything, you want to say anything about the LiDAR draft?
Well, basically, the state has encouraged through DCNR usage of a laser survey technology that produces contours for use, for all kinds of uses by municipalities,
time
private
we've had a
organizations, et cetera.
And what is that an acronym?
Yeah,
What
it's
does it stand for?
light detection and ranging, I think is what it's.
Light,
Anyway,
light intensity detection?
no.
Hang on, let's just go on one subject. LiDAR, go ahead.
Yeah, in any event.
2 minutes.
Well, just, you know, the subject is the LiDAR Draft Ordinance Committee. I presume people want to know who's on the committee.
Who is?
Mr. English here is one from the Planning Commission. We have Steve Kuntz and Mike Roscoe from the EAC. I'm assuming that John Sartor will be part of this, and, you know, anybody else you want to bring along?
We're still continuing the meeting, Pete.
And Mary, if you want to be part of this too. And
I think
anybody
she
else who
should be.
wants to be a part of it.
Well, it sounds interesting.
Yeah. So the idea is to see what we can sort of do by threading the needle in terms of developing an ordinance so that it gives at least an applicant that's going to be building something, whether it be an addition to their house or whether it be a full-fledged development of 100 homes, it gives them a tool that will be more accurate up to a point. And basically help us in terms of enforcing our other ordinances dealing with steep slopes. And so that's where we're going with it.
Is there another supervisor working with you on this?
Not yet.
Could I join you?
Sure.
Terrific.
Okay, anything else on that?
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, any additional business? Any more public participation on any matters not on the agenda or such?
Public participation?
In general.
Or in general? Go ahead.
In general? First of all, I'd like to say I'm very disappointed in the Schuylkill Township Supervisors. With all of the people here, we had 16 residents from Pickering Glen, and you also have signed 64 names, people in our development that have concerns, of which you basically just blew them off, okay? Now, we are not in disfavor of having the school put in, or, you know, the fields put in. We're in favor of talking, speaking, you know, talking it out, working with the communities, the people that surround us, okay? What you did tonight, basically, was just gave them, you know, the open books to spend as much money as they can to get these schools built and these fields put in.
There's been nothing in the newspaper pertaining to how much it was going to cost and what it's going to total at the end. And guess who has to pay for that? Us, those residents that signed that piece of paper, okay? Who's going to get the tax increase? Not Dr. Fegley. He doesn't even live in Pennsylvania. He doesn't even pay property taxes in Delaware, okay? We're going to pay property taxes, okay? We're the ones that bear the burden of paying the property taxes and the increase, okay? And, say what you want. We sat down with them. They made, inferences as to doing things like providing fill for the mounds that we would have, that they were going to, where they were going to have the runoff and stormwater management. Now, all of a sudden, it's going to be our burden. We're going to have to pay for it. The sound system, too. Those poor people over there, and even our neighbors, complained. But yet again, you can't do anything. I've seen you guys do more for little things, okay? And Barbara, you should be ashamed of yourself because you fought this. You fought the school district, and you spent a lot of money and time in order to try and keep that school building that was 50 years old for historical value. That was you, okay?
It was
you spent,
not
excuse
historic
me, I'm
value.
speaking.
It was environmental value. I just wanted to correct the impression.
Okay, but you spent taxpayers' dollars and you spent months fighting that with the school district, and all of a sudden, you're their friend, okay? We're talking about kids here, right? We're talking about kids and safety, and we didn't talk a lot about it. The fire and the police, right, that we're gonna need, and also the trail. It really is, and then, even Mr. Morrison, we paid the Phoenixville Country Club $2 million in order not to develop the property
Get your facts straight, sir.
in back
$1
of
million.
his house.
Get your facts
How much
straight.
was it? How much?
Excuse me.
Okay, 1 million.
Just 1 second. The
Okay.
public participation in this time of the meeting is for matters not on the agenda. This was on the agenda. And
That's
you're
correct.
kind
No,
of slipping up.
it's-
So
okay.
if you have something that's a non-agenda item, you get 2 minutes. But the vote's been taken. And we understand everybody's not happy, Pete, but, let's move on. You have 2 minutes on any other topic
I
that
need
you'd
to
like to
answer.
talk about.
Okay, I understand, and, I'm very disappointed in the board, and the only thing I can say is that it's unfortunate that school is going to be built by, 2017, but I guess when everybody goes up for reelection, again, we're gonna make sure that we get the people out and let them know how much our taxes went up because of this, and how much you people actually sympathized with us in the communities.
May I, Pete, I'd like to say one respectful thing to you, but you won't listen, huh?
He's gonna leave. He did his soapbox thing.
Right.
All right.
It's very sad. Objectively speaking, to those of you who are still here this evening, this decision was an objective one. Nobody is a friend of somebody. There's no insider thing. We've taken the broad view of what is good for the children of the entire township and what is the
And the
highest
borough
best use
and
for this
East Pike.
property.
Okay.
That's all.
Does anybody have anything for executive session?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting and move into executive
Make that
session.
motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm not going to have any time left over between now and executive. I'd like to reopen the Board of Supervisors meeting. We covered litigation issues on information that we'd received, and we now propose any motions?
Yeah, with respect to the Nolan property and the conservation easement, make a motion to request that the Open Space Commission an appraisal on Mr. Nolan's 19 acres for a conservation easement using existing and best available information with respect to the township and our ordinances,
And the geography of the land.
and the geography of the land.
You said the 19 acres and the 10 acres? For
Talking
20?
about the 19 acres.
19 acres.
You don't want the other 10 acres appraised?
No, we're talking about 19 acres to have a conservation easement.
Correct. Right.
We're not gonna conserve 10 acres.
I think you're gonna bark up the wrong tree. Okay.
Well, I'll second the motion with the,
Any more discussion on it? All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
So moved.
I'd like to make a motion that we, end the meeting.
I'll second. Or I'll third.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.